KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A special mass was held this morning at the Cathedral of the Madeleine in Salt Lake City to honor and remember Pope Francis. The news of his death came early this morning. Cardinals from around the world must now choose a new pontiff during a conference called a conclave. ABC News contributor Father John Walk in Vatican City says the cardinals are sequestered during the process.
They'll be living inside the Vatican and kept separate from outside contacts for the duration of the conclave, which could last, well, as long as it takes to elect the Pope. There's really no limit on it. Though they may, after a number of ballots, they start to make it a little easier to elect the Pope.
The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is reacting to the news of Pope Francis's death. They said in a statement, quote, "We join the world in mourning the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. His courageous and compassionate leadership has blessed countless lives. We extend our heartfelt condolences to all who look to him for inspiration and counsel. As the world pauses to remember his example of forgiveness and service, we feel deep gratitude for the goodness of a life well lived and rejoice in the hope of a glorious resurrection made possible through the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ." Your money at this moment, the Dow's taken a bit of a tumble this morning, down 2.25%, 882 points to 38,260. Coming up, we still have a few trouble spots on the commute, but some beautiful weather today. KSL Traffic and Weather is next. KSL News Time 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988. Where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Are you looking to invest in your home, increase its livability, increase its value, increase its curb appeal? Well, doors and windows are a great place to start, and there's no better place to start than Peach Doors and Windows.
Maybe the purpose of your home has changed. Maybe you're an empty nester, or you just want to maximize the view of your home. Bring Peach your wish list. Think about out-of-the-box shapes and sizes. What you can imagine, Peach Doors and Windows can make happen. They can do renovations that other companies simply won't touch.
You can check out all of their 5-star reviews on Google, where customers rate Peach throughout every step of the process. From sales to installation, they will make sure you get exactly what you want. Check out their website at peachbuildingproducts.com. You can give them a call, 801-566-1255. They do free in-home estimates.
Or better yet, check them out in person, 2940 South, 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, or check them out online, peachbuildingproducts.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Let's check in with Heather Kelly.
Well, all the crashes that were on the freeways have cleared. That included eastbound I-80 right at the mouth of Parley's Canyon, southbound I-15 in Lehigh, and as well as northbound I-15 in the Woods Cross area. But we still have a crash on a city street in Ogden. This is 21st Street. It's westbound just after you pass underneath I-15. Still have emergency vehicles over on the right shoulder, but it's in the final cleanup stages. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be partly cloudy with a small chance of rain showers. It'll get sunnier throughout the afternoon, highs in the mid-60s. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 48 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
It was not the news I was expecting to wake up to this morning, Dave. Not after seeing Pope Francis out ever so briefly yesterday in the Pope Mobile in St. Peter's Square after Easter Mass. But this morning we are mourning the death, along with more than 1 billion Catholics around the world, of Pope Francis.
We knew that he was not doing well. He had spent several weeks in the hospital. He was battling pneumonia, other health issues. I think when he was younger, they had actually had to remove a part of his lungs, so he had always had some issues with some breathing. So this was very scary when he was in the hospital. But when he was released, I thought, okay, things are doing much better. And then when he made this appearance on Easter, I thought, oh, okay, he's doing great. So really, really surprising and shocking news that he had passed away.
Well, he looked definitely weak to me yesterday as I watched some of the video. But let's go with Jim Ryan, ABC News correspondent who's covering the passing of Pope Francis. Good morning, Jim.
Debbie, I think you're right. A lot of people were surprised. First, that he made it through his stint in the hospital, 5 weeks there with a serious pulmonary infection, double pneumonia at one point, and yet still he pulled through, was released from the hospital and doing better, meeting with people, including J.D. Vance, the vice president, met with the King of England and his wife. And so, yeah, things seem to be looking up. But you're right, he did not look well. He looked frail. He was in a wheelchair there on the balcony at the square yesterday, but was able to make comments during the Easter blessing. And I think people were gratified at that. Was he just holding on, trying to push through until the holiest day on the Christian calendar? Maybe, it's hard to say, but he made it.
Jim Ryan is joining us right now from ABC News, and I do wonder, I think I remembered hearing that he was going to take a little bit of time off, that his doctor said take a few months, really let your body heal as much as it can. But as you had said, it sounds like he was just pushing through. He was meeting with dignitaries, J.D. Vance, as you had mentioned. And does it sound like perhaps there was a concern that he had pushed himself too hard?
Well, yeah, I think in fact, his appearance yesterday at the Easter blessing, I think was against the advice of his doctors and his close advisors. He insisted on doing it, though, and then taking a ride around in the square in the Pope Mobile, waving at people and kissing babies. So, yeah, that it seemed to be his own will that he was going to make that appearance yesterday and to almost a farewell to the world, essentially.
Jim, now begins the longstanding tradition, I believe it's 1,000 years old, of the Catholic Church and the cardinals selecting a new pope. Mm-hmm. And that will begin probably after several days of mourning.
Yes, there's sort of a loose schedule that follows the death of any pope for day 2 to day 6. The Pope's body lies in state at St. Peter's Basilica. Thousands of people are expected to pass by. The funeral mass is held 4 to 6 days after the death of the Pope, then 7 to 15 days preparations for the conclave, and then Finally, after 2 weeks or so, the conclave will begin. The cardinals coming to the Vatican from all over the world, 70-plus countries. They will meet in private. It's all done in secrecy. And votes are taken. It becomes a political game at that point, essentially. And then finally one of those cardinals will emerge as the next pope. We'll see the white smoke coming from the chimney there at the Vatican.
Jim Ryan, thank you for the update, ABC News correspondent.
I want to get over to breaking news just quickly. Our Alexandria Bonilla running into studio from the newsroom. What's going on?
We just barely learned that there was an officer-involved shooting last night, or early this morning, I should say. It was around 1:55. Farmington Police Department, they are saying that there was a report of a domestic disturbance, and then when they got there, it was also reported that a man was threatening a woman with a gun. They found both of them outside. They kept telling the man to please drop the gun, but he would not do it. And so one of the officers fired his weapon, striked him, and he did die. Emergency medical personnel, of course, they were contacted, but he was already gone by the time they got there. The Farmington Police Department says this is an isolated incident and there is no ongoing threat or anything like that. Of course, that officer has been placed on leave and the investigation is ongoing.
So the individual that was allegedly confronting the woman passed away, from what you're reporting, and then no officers were hurt from what we know, Alexandra?
No officers were hurt, and the woman was also not hurt.
Okay. Thank you so much for that update. Returning now to our ongoing coverage, and we know you'll continue to watch that in the newsroom as well, of Pope Francis's death. To me, it was unexpected to some degree, only because he was seen yesterday at the Easter service at St. Peter's Square. In fact, even got into the Pope Mobile for a time. Kelsey Dallas of the Deseret News. Good morning, Kelsey. It was actually your article that I turned to this morning when I opened up my Deseret News app, and I had no alerts at all that the Pope had passed away from other media sources. So I learned from you that he had died, and my heart sank. My heart sank as a Catholic, and as somebody who's appreciated his service to the Catholic Church. I was an instant. I was just instantly sad about this.
Yeah, I believe it was surprising to many people to wake up to this news, including myself, because he went through a very difficult hospitalization from mid-February to late March, but had been back at the Vatican. And although Pope Francis was continuing to receive treatment and to be slowed down a bit by his ongoing recovery, we had seen him more and more out and about over Easter weekend. And so it was somewhat shocking to wake up to this news this morning.
On a personal level, what do we know about Pope Francis?
Pope Francis connected with people around the world, even as he held this leadership role that is quite distant from everyday Catholics. He continued to oversee the business of the Catholic Church and the policies of the Catholic Church, but he never forgot the people in the Catholic Church and worked hard to remember what it's like to be a regular practicing Catholic and to speak to practicing Catholics about their relationship to the Church and to God. He put people first in the way that he spoke about controversial policies on LGBTQ issues, women in leadership, political topics like deportation. And so where other popes in the past maybe relied on maybe confusing theological statements or the traditions of the church, he was really there with the people, talking about their concerns and prayers and speaking about himself, not as this vaunted figure, but as a regular person trying to stay connected to God. So it was powerful to watch, even as someone myself. I'm not Catholic, but I felt connected to the Pope in the way that he did his work and was inspiring to leaders around the world, as we've seen in the statements that they've put out this morning.
You know, Kelsey, this morning when I was thinking about his legacy in my heart and in my mind, it really is the things that he said and did regarding the poor. And I want to reflect back on one of the statements that he made. It was about 9 years ago. He said, "The coexistence of wealth and poverty is a scandal, it is a disgrace for humanity. And his work to remind us about how important it is to reach out and help those who are less fortunate, that are going through tough times, is really what is going to resonate with me.
Right. He is known for statements about hot button topics like climate change. But if you look closely about those statements, they almost always returned to the issue of caring for the poor, caring for vulnerable communities. And that includes recent tension with the Trump administration about how the U.S. in this moment is handling the issue of immigration and related deportations. When the Pope was offering stern comments on what the Trump administration is up to, it was because he was worried about vulnerable people and how they would be affected by policy changes. It wasn't as if he was just letting it rest on, here is the official stance of the church on immigration. So he always brought it down to this human level. That most likely comes from his roots in a poorer part of the world. He was the first pope from the Americas. He never forgot his work in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And so that is what he'll be remembered for, is the way that he put the church's focus on the least of these and kept reflecting on that biblical teaching over and over again.
How was it received, some of the softening of the church's tone on these social issues?
It caused rifts in the Catholic Church. It's not that there was some formal break. It was just that there was a lot of muttering about where the church was heading. And in some senses, Pope Francis encouraged that type of dialogue, even when it turned against him, because he asked every Catholic to be engaged with their church and to speak up about the challenges that they saw and possible solutions. But it led to some pretty nasty dialogue online, to letters to Pope Francis that were later leaked, and seeing that Catholic leaders were sort of calling him out and saying that it was inappropriate for him to soften language on some issues like women's ordination or gay priests. And so there definitely has been tension around his time in the Vatican. But as I noted, he wanted there to be this kind of dialogue and to really bring everything out in the open.
We're speaking live right now to Kelsey Dallas of the Deseret News. Her article in the Deseret News was the first indication that hit me this morning that the Pope had passed away, and 88 years old, shortly after his appearance at Easter services at St. Peter's Square. And he was also in the Pope Mobile. So I was shocked to learn this morning. And Kelsey, just before we let you go, President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints paid a visit several years ago and spent time with the Pope. And I want to just play just a moment, some of the audio from after his visit and reflect back.
We had a most cordial, unforgettable experience with His Holiness. He was most gracious and warm and welcoming. We talked about our mutual concern for the people who suffer throughout the world. We want to relieve human suffering. We talked about the importance of religious liberty, the importance of the family, our mutual concern for the youth of the church, for the secularization of the world, and the need for people to come to God and worship Him, pray to Him, and have the stability that faith in Jesus Christ will bring to their lives. What a sweet, wonderful man he is, and how fortunate the Catholic people are to have such a gracious, concerned, loving, and capable leader. He's a dear, wonderful, humble, competent, gracious man.
That was President Nelson back in 2019 when he had met with the Pope, a little over 30 minutes, where they were able to share some thoughts on what is happening in the world, their dedication to helping those in need. Kelsey, some final thoughts with Pope Francis as he passes away. It seemed like he was incredibly generous with his time, meeting with other faith leaders in welcoming this conversation from all around the world.
Yes, met regularly with faith leaders from other traditions, met regularly with top politicians. Earlier this month, he had met with King Charles and Queen Camilla. Just yesterday, he met with Vice President J.D. Vance. That was part of his work, as it's been the part of the work of all popes, to sort of be both a state leader and a church leader. But I think that President Nelson wasn't alone in being struck by Pope Francis's presence and his loving kindness and the way that he connected with people and didn't hold himself apart from other Catholics or other leaders. There are very powerful statements being made today by world leaders about what they'll remember about Pope Francis. You can see a story with reactions on Deseret.com, as well as coverage of the Church of Jesus Christ statement about it and just an overall obituary about Pope Francis's legacy.
Kelsey Dallas, thank you so much for joining us from Deseret News.
Yeah, always appreciate your insights and your coverage as well today. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Adam Small of KSL News Radio attended Mass downtown at the Cathedral of the Madeleine as Catholics were just trying to digest the news. Utah is home to, I think, 300,000 Catholics. Of course, the Catholic Church home to more than 1 billion Catholics around the world. And Adam, you were inside that Mass this morning. What was it like? Take us inside.
Well, it was really somber, but I think there was also a sense of gratitude. I mean, there were about 24 people there, and from what I spoke with Father Martin Diaz, who is the pastor and rector of the Cathedral of the Madeleine, after the service, he said that the point of these special Mass services is that in the Catholic faith, they pray for those that have died, and in his own words, he believes that Pope Francis is in heaven, but they still felt the need to pray for him as learned about Pope Francis's passing. Like I said, there were a couple dozen people there. All of them seemed very reverent, very, and a lot of them, I talked with a couple on their way in. They seemed very grateful and, felt the need to honor Pope Francis's work and for everything that he did while he was here on earth. And I actually even talked to one person who said that he had not been to the church in quite some time, but he felt that Pope Francis left such a big impact on him personally and the things that he was concerned about during his work as the Pope. He felt the need to come out to 8 o'clock in the morning to a special Mass on a Monday, the day after Easter Sunday, to honor Pope Francis. It was a very it was a special feeling inside, I think is the best way I can word it.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Has attended that special Mass. I was able to speak to folks as well. So, Adam, thank you for your perspective, and thanks for sharing that with us.
So what happens now is the Pope will lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica, and there will be daily Masses during this morning period. My understanding is traditionally what usually happens is that a Pope will be buried sometime between the 4th and 6th day after he passes away. And then the papal election process will begin, what's known as a conclave, and more than 100, I think it sounds like maybe maximum 120 cardinals will gather all from around the world I want to say it's the Sistine Chapel, I believe. It's in the Sistine Chapel. And that 120 was set by Pope John Paul II in 1996. And I was honored to be at a Mass performed by John Paul II at Arizona State University at Sun Devil Stadium, ironically, Sun Devil Stadium, many moons ago. And I was right when we started seeing and hearing more about the Pope Mobile. And I believe he went around the Phoenix area in the Pope Mobile. I'll have to fact check myself on that. It was a phenomenal experience to be in the presence of a Pope not as a Catholic at the time. I'd since converted to the Catholic religion, but had mainly leaned into going to many Masses at that time. So Pope Francis passing away at the age of 88. We got the news this morning. If some of you are surprised, as I was by that, although he was in a health crisis, dealing with, I believe it's called bilateral pneumonia, expecting that he was perhaps on the road to recovery, at least in the short term, because he was seen yesterday at Easter services, although did not perform any masses during Holy Week last week.
It does look like Pope Francis will be buried in a different place. Typically, popes have been buried in the grottos beneath St. Peter's Basilica, but it looks like he will be buried in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome. So again, a unique pope, and he will be buried in a different spot. So we will continue to follow this. We have a great story coming up at 11 o'clock. More insight on President Nelson's visit with Pope Francis 6 years ago.
The murder of two men forces their families to wrestle with impossible questions. Who is forgiveness for? Does everyone deserve a second chance? Follow Season 2 of The Letter, Ripple Effect, at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
We've been telling you for a little bit now about this exciting news where Master Electrical Service has joined forces with Mountain Home Services.
That's right. So now you can just give Mountain Home Services a call, and here's what they can do for you: your electrical needs. I mean, you can take care of that. They can take care of your HVAC. They can take care of your plumbing. If your heating and air conditioning is just maybe it's getting fits right now, and you're realizing it because some days you need a little bit of air conditioning on, and then other days you need your heating on. Give them a call. They can take care of all of that.
Yeah, fireplaces as well. Now, it's beautiful outside, so you may not be thinking about a fireplace right now, but before you know it, that weather can turn, and you may want that additional comfort and that ambiance. So go ahead and reach out to Mountain Home Services. This all comes with upfront pricing guarantee, which means when they come out to your house and they give you a bid, they're going to honor that bid.
That's right. So no hidden fees. The price that they quote you up front, like Dave said, is the price you pay when the job is done.
100% satisfaction guarantee. Go ahead and reach out to Mountain Home Services by going to their website, mountainhomeservices.com. That's mountainhomeservices.com.
Or give them a call, 801-543-2222. Again, 801-543-2222.
Got an app idea? You're sitting on a gold mine, but stuck on how to bring it to life? Meet Dev Simplify, your superheroes for web and mobile app creation. Dev Simplify. DevSimplify.com. Just ask Coach Mike with Practice Planner Live.
You know, as a coach, technology isn't my strength, but Dev Simplify took my idea for Practice Planner Live and turned it into the top practice planning platform on the market. They transformed my non-technical vision into an incredible web and mobile app that coaches like me now can't live without.
See, you don't need to be a tech wizard. Your idea plus Dev Simplify's superhero software skills equals a big win. Right, Mike?
You know, I had big plans for my app, and with Dev Simplify's help, it's now a thriving must-have platform for all coaches.
Dev Simplify, turning your brilliant ideas into amazing web and mobile. No tech skills required. Visit DevSimplify.com and let the magic begin. DevSimplify.com.
Welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples prints it all.
Oh, you bet. Posters, banners.
Can you print it all for Mother's Day?
Oh, of course. Photo gifts like canvas prints, photo puzzles.
Can you print it all for graduation?
Sure can. Custom cards and invites.
Can you print a huge banner with the grad's picture?
Oh, definitely.
Even an embarrassing baby picture?
Oh, those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Print it all for moms and grads at Staples. And right now, get 40% off custom cards, invites, and photo gifts. N75 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
No doubt about it, April weather can be totally unpredictable. What is absolutely predictable during the month of April is the great meal that awaits you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's the change of the season. It's time to start anew, and making your reservation at either Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse will start your spring off on the perfect note. I love the fact that when your meal is served at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, it's served sizzling on a 500-degree plate. So each and every bite throughout the meal will taste absolutely perfect. Don't forget to always save room for dessert, but those side dishes are amazing. Whether it's asparagus, whether it's au gratin potatoes, the list goes on. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse prepares and serves your meal with perfection. Make reservations now. Hotel Park City and downtown Salt Lake City.
(9:30) at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour is breaking news. We're learning about an officer-involved shooting that occurred in the early hours of this morning. Farmington police say it started as a call about a domestic disturbance, and it was reported a man was threatening a woman with a gun. Police arrived, and after telling him multiple times to drop the gun, he refused. A responding officer shot and killed the man. The investigation is ongoing. Closing arguments are set to begin today in Lori Vallow Daybell's trial in Arizona. She's accused of conspiring to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, in 2019. The prosecution has rested their case, and Vallow Daybell, who's representing herself, told the court she doesn't plan to call anyone in her defense.
Are you going to present evidence tomorrow, either through witnesses or through your own testimony?
No, Your Honor, the defense will rest.
Vallow Daybell is expected to formally rest her case ahead of closing arguments. Regardless of the jury's decision, she'll continue serving multiple life sentences in Idaho for the murders of her two youngest children and conspiring to murder her current husband's first wife. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Democrats are calling for the resignation of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth after it was revealed he shared details about an attack on the Houthis in a second Signal Group chat. ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports.
The Pentagon saying another day, another old story, back from the dead. There was no classified information in any Signal chat. It also claims the reports relied only on the words of people who were fired this week. In recent days, at least 3 of Hegseth's top aides were placed on administrative leave, suspected of leaking national security information. At least 2 were later fired. The men deny any wrongdoing, saying, "We still have not been told what exactly we were investigated for," adding, "Unnamed Pentagon officials have slandered our character with baseless attacks."
The details shared in that second chat group include the flight schedules for the fighter jets involved in the military attack. Your money at this moment, the Dow has now dropped 1,000 points since opening. It's almost 2/3% down to 38,115. Coming up, it's warm today, really nice, before it gets a little bit rainy maybe later on. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, things are moving along much better now all across the Wasatch Front, especially where we had some earlier crashes in Parley's Canyon and southbound 15 in Lehigh. Everybody's moving at speed if you're on the I-15 corridor, either northbound or southbound throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties. Got pretty good speeds on the 201 freeway as well. Just a little congestion remains on Mountain View corridor through West Valley near 3500 South. If you see something on the roadway we haven't mentioned, let us know on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. Break your routine and into adventure in Cedar City, Bryan Head. Connected to nature, Cedar City makes spring the best break ever. Shopping, dining, and recreation galore. Break up your adventure. Visit cedarcity.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be partly cloudy with a small chance of rain showers. It'll get sunnier throughout the afternoon, highs in the mid-60s. Right at this moment, it was 48 degrees. It's still 48 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
What is going on with summer travel? Bankrate did some great research and surveys into what the summer travel is going to look like, and this is the big shocker for me. A lot of people are just, quite frankly, not interested in traveling. The reason they're not going to travel this summer, lack of interest. It's not a financial thing. It is, you know what? It's too much of a hassle. It's hard to get time off work. Ted Rossman joins us right now from Bankrate, and that was the big shocker for me. Is we think about vacationing and looking forward to summer vacations, but you guys found about a quarter of folks are like, not interested.
I know. Maybe they can share some of their vacation time with us. It is kind of surprising. You know, to be fair, maybe sometimes they're retired and every day is a vacation, or, you know, some people aren't that into it for their health or their age. Now, there are other sort of adjacent factors. We actually separately asked about maybe being unable to take time off of work or finding it too much of a hassle. I'm actually surprised that none of these figures changed much from last year. 46% of U.S. adults are planning to travel this summer. We see about a quarter not traveling, about a quarter not sure yet, 10% planning a staycation. I actually would have thought that we would have seen more of a decline because we know there's been a cumulative effect to inflation and there's a lot of economic uncertainty. But, you know, nonetheless, it's pretty much the same as last year, which is to say that travel's plateaued at a pretty high level. You know, for all we hear from the airlines about, people are traveling less, we're not totally seeing that in our numbers. You know, maybe they're cutting a few corners to save money and some people are not traveling, but overall, it's been a fairly static picture the past few years.
Very interesting to look at how people are traveling. What trends are we seeing? If there really isn't that much difference between how many people are going to travel this year from last year, even though this year's economic outlook is, I think, far murkier than it was last year, perhaps even a little bit more optimism last year. But where are people traveling? What kind of vacations are they expected to take?
38% are traveling domestically. That's actually up 2 percentage points from last year. 15% traveling abroad. That's the exact same as last year. I actually think all of that is notable in its own right, just because there has been a lot of dour economic news, and nonetheless, travel is holding its own. More people are traveling now than there were back in 2019. And a huge surprise for me the past few years has been the staying power of this so-called revenge travel or the whole you only live once thing. I mean, I totally understand coming out of the pandemic in 2021 and 2022 that there was a lot of demand for travel. What surprised me is the staying power there, and that year after year we've been turning in record travel numbers. And even though the momentum may be slowing, it's still a lot of demand. And, you know, one of the ways I reconcile this is I know the airlines are saying that their revenues are down a little bit and they're seeing fewer passengers traveling. It may be that people are just traveling a little bit differently. Or maybe they're doing a little more of the road trip instead of flying, or maybe they're doing a cheaper trip. They're taking a cheaper flight or cheaper accommodations or traveling for fewer days. But, you know, travel demand is still pretty solid.
When the demand is solid, what are the prices looking like? Has it become unaffordable? Is it any different? Are travel agencies, are they capitalizing on this revenge travel, or have they been for years? What does the financial outlook look like when we're talking about travel?
About a third of summer travelers are likely to take on debt, which is worrisome with the average credit card rate around 20%. My advice is be flexible. If you can cast a wide net, like if you want to go to the beach, but you don't care which beach, that's how you can save, because you can really take a wide look around and figure out where's cheaper. And maybe you travel midweek instead of on the weekend, or maybe you pick cheaper accommodations, or you take an early flight or a late flight or a connecting flight. It's this kind of zigging when others zag that can help you save. Use your rewards points and miles as well. Sometimes people forget about these, but if you're sitting on frequent flyer miles, hotel points, credit card points, all of this has real value and can help you with that whole champagne travel on a beer budget kind of idea.
How about generationally? Do we travel differently as generations? Is Generation X more apt to travel, or baby boomers? What about Gen Z and millennials?
The conventional wisdom is that younger people are more into traveling. One interesting generational finding is that among those not traveling, millennials were the most likely to blame cost, and Gen Zers were actually the least likely to blame cost. So I thought that was kind of surprising. These two adjacent age groups, we often think of Gen Z and millennials being very similar, but when they're skipping the trip, it's millennials who are much more apt to blame the cost. Maybe that's because millennials are getting older. A lot of them are in their 30s or even early 40s now, maybe more encumbered with childcare costs and housing costs and things like that. So there are still a lot of millennials traveling, but when they're not traveling, they're the most likely to blame cost.
And when we're looking at taking on debt, is there any group that is particularly comfortable taking on debt to pay for their vacations?
Taking on debt really at any age is worrisome just because of the high cost of credit card debt. It's millennials and Gen Z who are a little bit more likely than Gen X to take on debt for travel. Boomers actually brought up the rear here. Only 22% of boomers are likely to take on debt for travel this summer versus 34% of millennials, 31% of Gen Z, and 29% of Gen X. My advice would be try to avoid putting it on the credit card and financing it over time. It's one thing if you're paying it off right away, but if you're truly going to be paying interest, I would try to avoid that. Maybe scale back the trip, go somewhere cheaper, plan a staycation, use those rewards points and miles by all means, but you don't want to be paying for this summer's vacation a year from now. So whatever you can do to sort of trim back a little bit and avoid these hefty interest rates would be a wise choice, I would say.
Final thought, the having a hard time, some of the reason people are not traveling is they say, I just can't get time off. Are we not using our vacation time, or are companies just pushing back and not approving it?
Americans are notoriously bad about using vacation time. It is really important to relax and recharge, and there's actually studies that show that it makes you a better employee in the long run. I know sometimes there are deadlines and pressures, and you feel like you can't get away, but it's important to find some balance. So, maybe you can't spare 2 weeks away from the office, but maybe you could go away for a week, or maybe you could even do a handful of long weekends. I mean, everybody's circumstances are a bit different, but I like to think everybody should hopefully have the opportunity to do something fun, even if it's sticking a little bit closer to home or shortening the time frame a little bit. 16% say that they can't take time off work, and that's why they're skipping the summer trip.
Ted, thank you so much for joining us. Ted Rossman from Bankrate. We want to take your phone calls right now, folks. So let's hear from you, because what stood out to me is that there is about a quarter of you out there that are just not interested in traveling. Some of the reasons being can't take time off work. It's too much of a hassle. Are you concerned about air safety, health and age concerns? Has travel become too much of a hassle? Are you part of, I would love, if you're part of that 1/4 of Americans that are saying it's just too much hassle, I've lost interest in traveling, you go to the top of the list. 801-575-TALK. We'd love to hear from you. Has traveling just become too much of a hassle? 801-575-TALK.
Utah's #1 roofing contractor is now booking for spring, and what an opportunity. If you've been thinking it's time for a new roof, call IWC Roofing right now. Start of the season. They'll give you $1,500 off the quote on your new roof. IWC roofs more homes than any other company in Utah, and they're the highest rated roofing contractor in the state. And wait, it gets better. Instead of turning your world into chaos for an entire week, IWC will finish your project in a single day. Along the way, they'll even send you updates and pictures from the roof so you know exactly what you're getting. And when they're done, they'll power wash your driveway just to say thank you. IWC gives you the best warranty in the business, backed by Owens Corning, and that extra $1,500 off. They offer flexible payment options, the best pricing, and $1,500 off. Call 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690, or just go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here. If you were misled or lied to in any way when buying a timeshare, right now is your wake-up call. With the tariffs, economy tanking, and inflation rising, you might need to ask yourself this question. Is owning a timeshare a good idea? With all the economic uncertainty, you need to protect yourself and your family. Don't look back and say, if I'd have only got rid of that stupid timeshare they lied to me about. It's time to stop thinking about canceling your timeshare and finally get rid of it and be smart with your money. At Wesley Financial Group, we've saved 48,000 families an average of $65,000 in lifetime payments. Give us a call. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare permanently or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-489-7733. 800-489-7733. 800-489-7733.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I couldn't believe it. A quarter of Americans, according to Bankrate, they did a survey on this, a quarter of people right now are just not interested in traveling. Like, that's not at the top of the list. And I started looking at myself in the mirror. Like, Dave, do you want to travel? And I might be part of the one quarter of Americans that are like, no, I'm good. I like just being here. I like my golf game. I like my pickleball games with my friends. I don't know if I need to necessarily pack up and go somewhere. And I was surprised there's so many people that are with me, kind of done with travel. My wife very much wants to travel, and I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with me, number one. What has happened? Why have I lost interest in traveling the world? Perhaps I've done enough of it. We'd love to hear from you. Have you lost interest in traveling, or are you all in still? Do you still absolutely love traveling? 801-575-TALK. Would love to hear from you right now. But how do you feel about travel right now? 23% of people not interested in traveling. 801-575-TALK. I just got a text at 57500. Says, I'm 61 years old, got some health problems, but I'm still traveling. Now, health problems, about 15% of people say, I don't travel because of health. I've got some age concerns. I'm a little bit too old to be traveling. But a lot of people are still all in. They love traveling. So I will say, just from my own perspective, the reason I don't love traveling, or maybe look forward to traveling, number one, it is the cost of traveling. And not to say that there's not money and we haven't saved up and it's not there. I have a hard time not doing the mental calculations every time I purchase something. Every time we go to a game, like, oh, was the game worth it? Was the play good enough to justify those tickets? How about that $9 banana and water that I got at Disneyland? Right? Why would a $9 banana and water at Disneyland ruin my experience when you have the money, when you set aside the money? Well, in part because a lot of people are putting their travel on a credit card. They're putting their travel on a credit card. They're going into debt. And that's a little bit of a shocker. And when we were talking to Ted Rossman with Bankrate, who had just joined us, he said, when we look at people that are financing or putting their travels on a credit card, only 56% of people use cash. Debit cards are used, but 42% of people are using credit cards. But some of the reason that is, hey, I'm going to put it on the credit card. It's a little easier if there's a disputed charge. When I use my credit cards, I can dispute it more easily, but I have the intention of paying in full. And then we're also going to enjoy getting all those rewards as well. Let's jump out to Ryan in Ogden. Ryan, where do you land right now on travel? How do you feel? I didn't realize looking in the mirror that I might be some of the problem, that I'm the one that is losing interest in traveling. Ryan, where are you at?
Oh, I would love to travel, but we've taken all of our kids to, all the places, California, but as they get older, they have spouses. It's kind of expected we take them, and it's just a lot of money to travel. If you want to go further than a drive, you got to do airfare, hotels, rental cars. It's just, our last vacation our family took, it was $10,000 to Florida.
Wow.
It's a lot of money.
$10,000. So are you considering not traveling or maybe scaling back your travel now?
We're just trying to be smarter how we do this, look for the bargains, anything like that, the discounts. I mean, we always do that, but we're going to be a little more diligent in doing that. Airfare is, because we watch it all the time, just seems to have skyrocketed lately, and looking for, the travel on Thursdays and Tuesdays and so many days and weeks out is a little bit better, but not like it used to be.
Does that really work, Ryan? Like, I've always wondered if the set the alert for Tuesday morning to check airfares really gets me a better bargain. I haven't tried it enough to find out.
Yeah, it does sometimes, but the thing is when you want to travel somewhere, you also have a budget amount of time. And then if you do cheap, you've got to do layovers, and sometimes they're overnight, and it's just not worth it. Yeah. A 4-hour flight can turn into 10 hours or a 24-hour time to get to where you're going. It is just not worth it to us.
Yeah, and I'm feeling the pain because I've seen it myself as well, Ryan. Thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it. Again, taking your phone calls, 801-575-TALK. Have you lost interest in travel? That's the angle. I always guess I put my disinterest in travel as just strictly being a money thing, Debbie. Mm-hmm. But as I'm looking through some of the list of why people aren't traveling, too much of a hassle absolutely jumps to the top of the list. Like if you ever want to just do a weekend up in the mountains, do a little camping, maybe it's because I'm not expert at this. It is so much time to get everybody ready and find all the backpacks and find the sleeping bags and the tents. Are the tents actually working this time? It is a little bit too much of a hassle.
Well, I was listening to Ryan. I was thinking about the unexpected cost, too. So the last road trip I took just a couple of weeks ago down to Arizona, on the way back home, my daughter and I were greeted by something in the road on I-17, somewhere between somewhere and nowhere. And we rolled over something, and it popped the back tire. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, I'll get out with the bike pump and start pumping it on the side of a really busy freeway. And by the way, tanker trucks and semi-trucks don't ever stop. We were barely off, just because there's just not enough shoulder. We were barely off the road far enough away. I was just like, something bad's going to happen. It already had, but this was a complete obliteration of my back tire. And so it took a 10.5-hour drive, and it extended it into a 16 or so hour drive with a $350 tire and the anxiety of driving on a donut the size of a Krispy Kreme.
Nicely glazed.
Talk about shrinkflation. They asked me too. They like, do you have a spare? I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe. We'll see.
So I was thinking of that hassle. I was thinking about the time that I accidentally tried to take a water bottle through TSA and basically all but shut down the TSA line, and they brought out the dogs, the water-sniffing dogs, and that delayed travelers. Plus, it was a huge embarrassment. But overall, in general, even in spite of the hassles, and I do feel like I'm getting ready to go on another trip, and I'm like, ugh, I got to remember everything. I got to pack everything. I do feel inspired to travel.
I like to travel. I love to get on road trips. And yeah, I forget something, but I'm like, there's probably a store there. I could probably buy it there when I get there. But it's the unknown expense. I always add 10 to 20% to the price tag of what I'm planning on spending because it's the unknown. It's that $350 tire.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, my son looked at the tires the other day. He's like, yeah, that ain't the best tire you got for the. What are you going to do, though?
Right.
Like, you're going to tell the tire guy, sorry, give me a better tire. I was just lucky to make it through a blizzard, by the way, to the tire shop to get the thing changed. So $350 later, we were back on the road. But I always add extra money to the bottom line because I know, my budget, because I know the bottom line is going to be far more.
There's a couple of reasons when we're looking at the lack of interest, that the concerns of the unexpected, the hassles. Many people are having a hard time. They just say, I can't take time off work. That's probably a conversation for another day, but how much we are notorious, according to Ted Rossman from Bankrate here in America, we are notorious for leaving vacation days on the table. We don't use them. Even if it's use it or lose it, we will show up to work. And I think that probably says a little something about ourselves. We can't just, wipe our hands clean of work and then just go off for a couple weeks. We have a hard time with that.
Stay with us as we stay right on the money in the 10 o'clock hour. So you had money taken out of your paycheck, every paycheck, to put into a flexible spending account last year. Good for you. Well, you didn't quite use it all up. Well, bad for you. That's next.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. A very special event is just around the corner now, and it's Mother's Day. And it's not just for the people we call Mom, it's that special woman in your life. And the people at NPS, they have a selection of things that special woman is going to absolutely love. In each and every one of their 4 stores, it's 20 to 70% off retail each and every day. But each of the stores have very special deals that go even beyond that. So if you see a wonderful deal at NPS, buy it now, because odds are it just won't be there tomorrow. The 4 locations: Salt Lake Anchor Store at 1600 South Empire Road. The industrial location is right across the street. Layton at 1150 North Main Street, and Orem 475 North State Street. It is a nice place to save. And as I mentioned, the perfect place to shop for Mother's Day. NPS.
Howdy, folks. It's me again. And surprise, it's tomato frenzy time at J&J Garden Center in Layton. Right now, all large-size tomato plants are only $2.99 each. That's half price and grown from seed right here at J&J. And while you're here, pick up a bag or 2 of J&J's private label all-purpose premium topsoil to help strengthen your vegetable garden for only $5.98 a cubic foot bag. So come to the Tomato Frenzy sale at J&J Garden Center in Layton, where they have the best products at the best price and the best employees, too. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
While the weather's mild, it's a perfect time to get your air conditioner ready for summer. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the next time you're outside, take a look at your air conditioner. There's a few things you can do to avoid common breakdowns that happen at the beginning of the season. If you covered it for the winter, uncover it. If the bushes and shrubs are growing around it, make sure you trim them back about 18 to 24 inches. If the coils are dirty, rinse them off with your garden hose. Then go inside and make sure you have a clean filter. If you do all that and find yourself with an air conditioner that isn't working, consider calling Any Hour Services. We have an air conditioner troubleshooting special for any homeowners listening. For only $29, we'll send a certified HVAC technician to your home to troubleshoot why your air conditioner isn't working. Then they'll give you a summary of their findings and present you options to repair it. To find out why your air conditioner isn't working for only $29, call Any Hour Services today at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. Catholic Mass was held in multiple locations around the Wasatch Front this morning, with many in attendance taking time to remember what Pope Francis taught them. The Pope passed away overnight, and we previously spoke with Father John Evans, who says Pope Francis has been an inspiration to people around the world because of his kind heart.
He came in with such humility. He was a person who would ride the city bus, who would visit the homeless, who did this on a regular basis, not for show, just quietly on his own.
We'll have more local reaction on the Pope's passing throughout the day. The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is reacting to the news of Pope Francis's death. They released a statement saying, quote, "We join the world in mourning the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. His courageous and compassionate leadership has blessed countless lives. We extend our heartfelt condolences to all who look to him for inspiration and counsel." Closing arguments are set to begin today in Lori Vallow Daybell's trial in Arizona. She's accused of conspiring to kill her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, in 2019. The prosecution has rested their case. Vallow Daybell, who's representing herself, is expected to formally rest her case this morning ahead of closing arguments.
How long does the state anticipate its closing argument being?
I would assume probably over an hour.
How about the defense?
Less than that.
The jury is set to begin deliberating after closing arguments. Regardless of their decision, Vallow Daybell will continue serving multiple life sentences in Idaho for the murders of her two youngest children. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 2 3/4 points, down to almost to 38,000. We're at 38,059 right now. Coming up, we've got a pleasant sunny day ahead. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief. The best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Progressive Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance might be the easiest part of owning a home. Definitely easier than this.
Psst, honey. Honey! What? Shh, there's a salesman walking up the driveway.
Oh no, he's got a clipboard.
What do we do? Get down. Down?
On the floor, you
Shoot, did he see us? Why are you breathing so loud?
Home ownership isn't easy, but with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, shopping for home insurance is. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it'd go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Hi, this is Kathy.
And Jason from Window World.
Jason, there's a window company giving huge discounts, saying it's the biggest sale ever.
And last month they were offering free labor. That just doesn't add up.
We don't play those games. At Window World, everyone gets the same low price every day.
No pressure, no games, and now we offer siding too.
Call Window World today, 801-281-8111 for 4 windows and a patio door for just $56.12.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
How serious is youth vaping? Irreversible lung damage serious. 1 in 10 kids vape serious, which warrants a serious conversation from a serious parental figure like yourself. Not the seriously know-it-all sports dad or the seriously smart podcaster. It requires a serious conversation that is best had by you. No, seriously, the best person to talk to your child about vaping is you. To start the conversation, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Time for a check of traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Heather Kelly.
No delays right now anywhere across the Wasatch Front. We've got good speeds on I-15 northbound and southbound throughout Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis counties. You'll also have a good commute going around the Salt Lake Valley on the east and west side belt routes and coming out of Twilla County on I-80 and the 201 freeway. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave Utah has your blacktop covered at gopavutah.com. That's gopavutah.com. Call or visit gopavutah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, mostly sunny with a high of 64 degrees today, 68 tomorrow, and then it gets a few days warmer each day until Friday. Right now, it's 48 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Flexible spending accounts. Maybe you have one, and that's the good news. So your employer lets you put a little bit of money each month away in an FSA. That's the good news. The bad news is billions and billions and billions of dollars are forfeited because it's not spent by people like Dave Noriega, and after 25 years, he's about ready to break up with his FSA.
It's not me. It's you, FSA, and it's over. I am done. It feels like I'm gambling on my family's health every single year. They ask me back in, the enrollment periods like October, November. All right, Dave, look into the future, grab your crystal ball, and determine how much money am I going to spend on my family's health this year? Oh, $100, $1,000, $3,000, $3,300. That's how much I think I'm going to spend. It's the craziest program that we have out there where we have to guess, how much am I going to use this year? What's my guesstimate? And then what happens, and I've done this for 25 years. I've always signed up for the FSA. I'm always trying to figure out, how do I spend that last little bit of money, the last $500? I remember one year, Debbie, I had $1,000 left in my flex spending account, and it's use it or lose it, folks. Like, if you don't use it, it disappears up into the ether. I don't know who gets it, but somebody gets it. I had $1,000. I go out, and you can buy glasses, and I wear glasses. I didn't need glasses. I didn't need contacts. I spend $1,000 on glasses. I'm like, give me the Gucci with all of the prescriptions. Oh, Sunglasses, prescription sunglasses, I'll take those. I'll take a year's worth of contacts. I spent $1,000 that I didn't need to on stuff that I was fine without. But when you invest in that and you save it and it's use it or lose it, of course, you just got to spend it.
So FSA stands for Flexible Spending Account, and you can save up to $3,300 a year, and that's pre-tax money, and it's for medical expenses. So you don't get taxed on it, but then you get to essentially, it's like a savings account that you can't just use for like Christmas gifts or birthday gifts or vacation. You have to use it on medical expenses. And the benefit of it is it's not taxed, but you get to reimburse yourself from that because it's like an application process, right? Unless you have a FSA card or something like that. But then you have to submit your receipts. If you do it the long math like I do, I submit the receipts and I go onto an app and then I upload my receipts and then I get money back into my checking account. But it's not quite use it or lose it. You can roll some of that money over that's left over from last year. So my read of it right now is almost $600 can be rolled over. But I think where you're frustrated with it is it's like like you said, it's like a gamble. It's a guessing game. Like, I don't know if my family is going to go through $3,300 or if I put away $3,300 in this pre-tax money into an FSA, what if we only use $1,000? And I can only roll over $600 at the end of the window of opportunity to use the money. And then what happens to the rest of the money? Well, I got news for you. According to statistics, like back in 2023, there was almost $5 billion in unspent. It's like $4.5 billion. It's a rounding error, almost $5 billion in unspent FSA money. So the average forfeiture was $422.
Isn't that incredible? Now, how much are you going to save? About $600.
In taxes?
In taxes.
Because it's not taxed.
If you take the full $3,300 out, you might save about $600 in taxes. It's good. But it's also...
I'd rather not pay taxes than pay taxes. So if you just boil it down to Debbie simple math, I'd rather not pay taxes. So if you're saying it's $600, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like the most... Well, I guess it depends on your tax bracket, right? If you're in a 37% tax bracket,
it's like
then it's going to be
$900 or something.
Yeah, it's going to be more significant that way. Here's the problem, and it's a little bit the problem that we have with the buy now pay later programs. You end up buying more than you need, right? If you put something on the credit card, then you're like, oh, I don't really need this, but I'll pay for it later. Well, that's what happens. Again, I had $1,000 sitting in my account, and at the time it was use it or lose it. It didn't have any of the rollover provisions, and I ended up buying $1,000 worth of sunglasses, prescription sunglasses, and regular glasses and contacts because I didn't need to spend it. It would have been smarter for me to just pay out of pocket, or maybe squirrel away that amount of money. Like say, hey, I'm gonna have an account that I just set aside every paycheck. I'm gonna send a couple $100 that way for my health expenses and kind of work it that way. The flex spending account is so antiquated. It makes no sense to me that if I don't use that money, if I have the audacity to be healthy this year, that somebody else gets to keep that money. It is the weirdest program that we have.
So you could have spent it on something other than eyeglasses. You could have spent it on first aid supplies like Band-Aids.
$1,000 in Band-Aids.
Yeah, you could have spent it on sunscreen. You could have spent it on...
I thought sunscreen was a no.
No, this list says...
I was looking at your FSA
sunscreen. The summer's supply has probably run out of time. Hold on a second. Keep in mind, as long as it is SPF 15 or higher. This is kind of to your point that this is on Investopedia, Dave. It says you can use it to buy sunscreen. But to your point, if you buy... I don't know if you can buy anything below SPF 15 these days, but if you don't buy the right sunscreen or SPF 15 or higher, and it must protect against both UVA and UVB radiation.
UVB radiation.
Sunburn
That's good.
treatments like aloe vera also count. So, there's a huge list of things. Some weight loss programs are covered as long as they treat a condition diagnosed by a physician. So if you've gained weight because you have a specific medical condition that's been diagnosed, but it won't cover the latest. It says won't cover the latest and greatest weight loss fad. Over-the-counter medications, as long as it treats a medical condition, then you're safe to use your FSA. If it's cosmetic, though, so I guess I can't buy my makeup, and I have never tried.
Or a nose job.
Yeah, most toiletries, for example, won't count, they say.
No toothbrush, no lotion, no soap.
Prenatal vitamins are covered. Maybe some other vitamins are covered. But, yeah, I start looking at this list. It gets confusing and complicated. You don't want to risk it because you don't want to flag yourself for that thing we always talk about, the IRS audit, because you bought the wrong sunscreen.
Well, the FSA, they just deny those claims. Like I've submitted things in the past that I thought were covered. They're like, no, that was covered last year. It's not covered this year. Like, what am I doing? Am I tracking every item in my FSA? Like, it seems like it would be pretty obvious that I'd be able to use this. Like, oh yeah, saline solution, totally fine for contacts, but don't expect to buy any squirt lotion or hand sanitizer.
And then you got to give your receipts.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it automatically takes it out from the doctor's office. It automatically goes through. But again, explain to me why saline solution, eye cleanse, is fine, but hand sanitizer is not. Right? It's just, I'm so frustrated with it. And I think I end up spending more money on some of these, smaller things because I have, what's left over, than the hassle it is to just be like, I'm just going to pay for it in cash.
Shane Stewart with the MBA Certified Financial Planner live on the line with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're letting Dave rant about the FSA plan. I've liked it over the years. The one that we've used here, I've really liked it because it gives me like a savings account, if you will, for medical expenses that I can't dip into it for vacation expenses.
Right, and you've like you mentioned, the tax benefit of that is great. But Dave's right; it's not for everyone. You really, the people who benefit from this the most have more predictable health care. Something like common and heavy prescriptions, or a medical condition where they're buying medical supplies on a regular basis, and they have a little more predictability. When you have a young, relatively healthy family, it's tough to, as Dave said, bet on your family's health. It's hard to peg that, and so it is a little more unpredictable.
We were trying to do this with the kids in braces because orthodontia is covered by your FSA, so it was really a roll of the dice. We would put aside the full $3,300 or whatever the number was at the time. We're like, well, we'll see how it goes, buddy. If we have money left over, you get braces. If not, then no braces. It was just such a wild thing to go through because you're like, well, we'll see. We'll see when you get braces.
Right. So not only did you bet on their health, you bet on the straightness of their teeth. That's no fair to the kid, right? Mm-hmm. One thing you can do, however, with a flexible spending account to that point, take an orthodontist as an example. And I tried this before, and it actually worked. I had a child with braces. The orthodontist quoted $2,000. It was in the fall, and I said, great, why don't you start that in January, and instead of $2,000, I'll pay you $1,800, knowing that I could take that full $1,800 right out of my FSA on the first week of January. And I had to pay it up front, but I got it back immediately in January when I could make an FSA claim, as long as I had that bill from the orthodontist. So I was able to negotiate a 20% reduction in the cost just because he knew I had a flexible spending account and I would pay him right up front.
And that is an important, I think, another benefit to the FSA money. If you did something like that, even though you haven't technically put all of the money in from your paychecks over the course of the year, the program assumes that you will, and you can get that reimbursement up front.
That's right. And not only that, if someone left their employment, say mid-year or even retired mid-year, they could have used, and you don't, I'm not suggesting someone work the system, but they don't have to pay back anything they've used during the year, meaning you mentioned the number on forfeitures of what people have saved, but also the reverse is true. Some people have used the money but didn't have the full year to pay in, and that's how it comes out in the wash for the employer.
The forfeitures is an angle that I think it sticks in my craw there. It's $4.5 billion of unspent funds annually. It's an average of 422. Now, I get it. Some people come out ahead on it. But I think, sometimes when you're trying to work the system, sometimes because your health is so unpredictable, you just may have not guessed right. It seems like such an antiquated system. Why, maybe you can speak to this, why doesn't the FSA allow to accrue? This is not huge amounts of money. Why doesn't it let you just accrue from year to year and carry it on a little bit like a health savings account?
I think you're right, Dave. I think it's antiquated, and that number actually is alarming when you hear about it in aggregate. That's a lot of money that's being forfeited, and it seems like we could do better on that. And I really don't have an answer for why they require it to be spent during that year, other than they don't want people trying to get the benefit of the savings apart. So, for example, an HSA is a health savings account. The S in health savings is savings, but the S in flexible in FSA is spending. It's a spending account.
Yeah.
So it's really old legislation that maybe should be revamped. And you're right, a lot of folks are using an HSA, which is portable, also goes on year by year. You don't forfeit anything, and that's been the wave of the future right now.
Shane, what is your best recommendation that you can give? Because not everybody, like we do, we have open enrollment in the fall, but some people might be going through open enrollment for summer plans, or maybe taking on new employment, and so they've considered a life event, and so now they're looking through their paperwork, over the next couple of months, trying to decide which way to go. What's your best recommendation or your rule of thumb when it comes to flexible spending accounts?
Yeah, when it comes to flexible spending, I would say assess your situation. And if you have really low costs when it comes to your health care, young family, relatively healthy, something like that, you actually probably shouldn't consider a plan with an FSA. If you have available to you, you might consider a high deductible plan, but with a HSA, that savings account. That at today's point, that's a little better. However, if you're older, you have more predictable health care expenses, that kind of thing, you might use a plan that doesn't have high deductibles, but it pairs with an FSA. And if it's a little more predictable, you can use the FSA. But I would say even using the FSA, aim low, meaning if you think, probably spend $2,000, maybe withhold $1,500. Just aim low so that the worst thing that can happen if you aim low is you do some of that health spending taxable, right? But the worst thing that can happen is forfeit some money. So aim low if you're doing FSA.
Shane, thank you so much for joining us. Final rant where Dave has been bitten by the FSA bug in the past is we selected very low, like $500 or $1,000, and then surprise pregnancy. I'm like, oh man, we should have tapped it all out every single time. I try to work it, I try to guess, and then baby number 3 comes. So thanks, Shane. Well, we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I think another twist in this is when another life event happens, and that is your children start coming off of your health plans,
good point.
your medical plans, or they move away, and now maybe you're trying to make them more responsible as they get new jobs to pay for, their medical expenses. So what's the plan in handling that? Will you continue to sock away money in the FSA, Dave, or are you going to readjust?
No, it's such a great question, and it's difficult because you're almost like, All right, I'm pulling for just a minor medical emergency, just something that I can use up my FSA. If we were able to carry it over, I think it would be so much more responsible to say, listen, we're going to let you take $3,500 tax-free. You can only use it for medical expenses, but go ahead. Add it up over the years. Carry it over. Roll it over.
More than the 570. I think they allow now 570 or something rolled over.
Exactly. So you can roll over a few $100s. But if you could accrue and maybe build up a nest egg, again, it's still earmarked just for medical expenses. Then when you do have a baby or a serious medical, you need a knee replacement or something, you have built up money over the years. I think it's far more responsible. It's fiscally responsible because we'd be setting aside money. We know it's not use it or lose it. And I'm not out there buying Gucci glasses because I have to burn through my FSA in the final weeks of the year.
But you look so good in your Gucci
Looks so
glasses.
good. Looks so good.
Hey, I think we've all done the same thing. You run to the eye doctor. They know it, too. They see us coming. They know it.
Okay. You're not looking for discounts. You're like, I got to spend up all the money.
It's either this or Band-Aids. Yeah. A 7-year supply of Band-Aids. Straight ahead, no price switch for the new Nintendo Switch. Remember, we covered this a couple of weeks ago. The company paused pre-sales just a few weeks ago under the cloud of President Trump's new tariffs. Now some good news for Switch fans, and Dave can't wait to talk about it next.
Jeff Kaplan. When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my minute of news, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
It is beautiful outside today. You look at those blue skies, you're thinking, all right, I'm going outside. I'm going to wear some shorts. But then you're like, I don't totally fit in these shorts. Maybe I need to lose a few pounds. Salt Lake City Fat Loss can help you with that. That is the key. If you sign up right now, there's a great spring special going on, $200 off the program. But Salt Lake City Fat Loss told me you can see incredible results in a very, very short period of time. In fact, in 2 months, I lost 57 pounds with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Many people will lose 20 to 30 pounds in just a month or two. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and be like, Dave, I'm down 25. I'm down 30. They feel great. They look great. And with Salt Lake City Fat Loss, you do it without surgery. You do it without injections. And you don't have to cut out cookies from your life for the rest of your life. You can have a donut eventually, right? But there's a couple months there where they're going to help you understand where your bad habits are. And they're going to try to break you of some of those bad habits, and the results are fantastic. So go ahead and reach out to Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Schedule a free consultation with them. slcfatloss.com is the website, slcfatloss.com.
You know how they always used to ask you in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I bet I'm the only kid who ever stood proud and said, I want to be a rain gutter or siding installer. Jim Jr. here with RGS Exteriors, and man, I can still remember all those wannabe astronauts and quarterbacks looking at me like I was an idiot. Who would want to install rain gutters or siding? Somebody who was a fourth generation in business. That's who. My great-grandfather, T.R. Brown, started the company in the 50s. Then my grandfather took over from him, then my dad, Tim Sr., and now I've been at the helm since 2005. Every day I wake up and think, man, I'm living the dream. And now my own kids are starting to work in the business too. 5 generations. If you want gutters, siding, windows, or any exteriors on your home, and a company that really cares deep down to our souls, give RGS a call. 801-280-3110 or find us online, rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com. 801-280-3110, rgsutah.com.
Hi, this is Kathy.
And Jason from Window World.
Jason, other window companies are offering their big specials again. What's our special?
Our special is the same low price every day for every customer all year round.
Wow, Window World is different.
We don't jack up the price to offer a phony discount like other companies.
No pressure, no games. Hey, call Window World 801-281-8111.
Or check windowworldutah.com.
Window World. Simply the best.
And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared.
Prevent your child's next asthma attack. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. It's a developing story. We're working to gather more information from Farmington Police after learning about an officer-involved shooting overnight. Police tell us they confronted a man after getting reports he was threatening a woman with a gun. Police say they arrived, but the man refused to drop the gun after multiple orders, and it eventually led to the suspect being shot and killed. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The White House Easter egg roll is taking place today, and President Trump took time to honor the life of Pope Francis, who passed away overnight.
President Trump said he signed an executive order to have flags flown across the nation at half-staff to mark the death of Pope Francis. The president gave brief remarks about the Pope's passing while he attended the annual White House Easter egg roll.
He was a good man, worked hard. He loved the world.
Earlier Monday, the president posted on social media, quote, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all who loved him." Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
A team from Best Friends Animal Society spent Sunday morning examining and vaccinating around 40 dogs recovered from a home in Ogden in what police are calling a hoarding case. Your money at this moment, the Dow really struggling this morning, down 1,050 points to 38,092, which is down almost 2 3/4%. Coming up, a week-long warming trend on the way. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Time for a check of traffic and weather together now, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Heather Kelly.
We do have a crash in Layton. This is on 2200 West southbound, right at Antelope Drive. It is blocking a right lane and shoulder in that area, causing a little bit of slowing, but traffic is still getting by. And a lot of people have let us know there have been multiple crashes all morning long on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. So if you see something out there, let us know. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, we should see plenty of sunshine with a high of 64. Then we're going to keep getting a few degrees warmer each day until we hit 74 on Friday. Right now, it is mostly cloudy and 48 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Big announcement today for Nintendo Switch fans. Remember how they froze the pre-sales just a couple of weeks ago? Looks like they're unfreezing them. And they froze them under the cloud of President Trump's tariffs. And now, with this unfreezing, what they're saying is they're not going to switch the price on the Switch, that it's going to stay at almost, $450, kind of depending on what package you get?
Yeah, you're going to be a very popular parent today because a lot of kids were really nervous about the price of the Nintendo Switch, what it could have been with all these tariffs. So just to recap a little bit, what happened is when the Nintendo Direct announced the Nintendo Switch 2, that it was coming out, they told you exactly how much it was going to cost. It was going to be $450 for the unit. If you want Mario Kart, then it's going to be $500. But as soon as they announced that, that's when all of Trump's tariffs were supposed to take place. And on that day, the president of the company here in America is like, yeah, that price was before all the tariffs. So we're going to have to figure out if that price that we just announced is still the right price. So jump a week ahead. They were supposed to have pre-orders. Pre-orders were happening all over the world, Debbie. Mm-hmm. They are selling out instantaneously. They are just selling out instantaneously. But they had to put a pause on it on the American sales.
Yeah.
So Canada, America, they said, we're still not sure what that price is going to look like here in America, so we're putting a pause on. All kids are starting to worry.
Yeah.
Because depending on what tariff was going to be, it was going to be $50, $100, $200 more. So this is very big news that Nintendo has come in and said, we are not changing the price of the Switch 2, not by 1 penny.
Which kind of tells you that, to me, it tells me they're making enough of a profit off your parents and your kiddos that they don't need to bump the price up in response to the tariffs. And by the way, Nintendo's made mainly out of Japan?
Yeah.
And so the tariffs out of Japan are a lot less than what we've seen out of China. I think they're in the 24% range. So let's just say it's a 1-for-1 price increase. So that would have been about $100 more. They are, however, raising the price $5 on some of the accessories. So they said, well, we're going to keep the prices same on the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Nintendo Switch 2 with Mario Kart, but you're going to see a price bump of $5 when it comes to like what do they call the joysticks?
The Joy-Cons.
Is that what the Joy-Cons?
Yeah,
They don't call them joysticks anymore.
Yeah, joystick controller.
I know, because you never just use one of those. If you have how many, you need 2.
8.
How many? 8.
You can have up to 8. If you're playing Super Smash Brothers Brawl, that requires 8.
And so that's $800.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's going to be there's going to be $95 up from $90. But yeah, so what's your take on this? Price stays flat even in spite of tariffs headline.
This is why I think it's so important not to overreact when President Trump has announced all these tariffs, because the initial numbers, and if you're doing the simple math, it can be extremely disconcerting about, oh my goodness, my entire life is going to explode. Everything's going to be 20% more or 10% more, whatever the tariff was. What I think this tells us is there is a price point that companies are looking at, and they're making a calculation that I don't think people are going to spend 20% more for this item. So we're going to keep it at this price. Now, of course, there's going to be people that'll buy the Switch 2 at any price. But I think what this says is, you know what? I think people are going to spend $450. They're not going to spend $550. So the companies are having to look at it and say, we're just going to have to take less profit on this. And when you look at all the items that are being hit by tariffs, this is where companies are going to have to look and say, I get it. Americans are the ones that are supposed to pay the tariffs, but if they're not willing to buy that item, I'm going to have to probably lower the price to make up for the difference of the tariff, which is exactly what Nintendo is doing. They're taking the hit. It's not the Americans. The Americans are still going to pull in whatever the tariff is, 10% or 20%. They're still going to collect on that tariff, but Nintendo's the one that's taking the loss.
So I'm not looking at this through that lens at all. I'm not looking at an extra $100 for your kid's Christmas gift, which is totally optional, by the way. Right? Your child does not need a Nintendo Switch 2, plus all of the 8 paddles that they need with it. So you're going to be out $1,500 by the time you get out the door. Because really $100 is nothing compared to the potential for example, a new car. Your family car breaks down. You might need that to get from point A to point B and get the kids picked up from school and get them to their after-school events and get to work. That's the real money. And that's the money that matters. So as pricing goes up on a new car, now you might say, oh, well, I'll buy a used car. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll find it's better for the budget to not worry about whether the used car, has a working battery and a working engine and isn't leaking oil. So you're looking at a 25% tariff potentially on new cars. And so now you're looking at what I call like real money. You're looking at another $10,000. So your children can go, sorry, kiddos, you can go without the Nintendo Switch 2, which will keep them glued to a monitor all summer long. Or you can, you can forego that. But you're still, Dave, I don't care how it's spun, prices potentially, and it's been widely reported, and economists say prices will go up for Americans. Nintendo Switches and game devices are totally optional for families. Certain things like maybe a new car to get around are not.
See, I would take issue with that because I think tariffs assume that this won't change our spending habits. And tariffs absolutely will change our spending habits. We will choose either to buy a new car or a used car, or maybe we spend more money to have it repaired in the mechanics. The projections right now are that the tariffs and this extra $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 on cars that it's going to cost, it was with the assumption that people will just keep purchasing them. And I think this is a much smaller level, but until we start seeing these truly jump up 8,000 and people paying that extra 8,000, it's all hypothetical. It's just, well, yeah, if we break it down mathematically, but that's again assuming that we're not going to change our spending habits when we absolutely will change our spending habits. I was just meeting with my daughter-in-law last night. We were, meeting. I made it sound like it was. We sat down and we had a meeting, family council. And they were looking at Shein, which is from China. They were looking at bathing suits, right? That's where they buy all their clothes. And they're like, I will pay $5 for a bathing suit. I'm not going to spend $12 on this bathing suit because these things are good for like single use, right? They're fine for a couple wear, but they're not going to last. So I'm not going to buy this bathing suit for $12 here. I can get that at Target. I can get it at Walmart. The reason I'm purchasing from Shein is because it's $5. So you can throw these tariffs on and it will change our spending habits. Absolutely.
You said hypothetical. I think I would use the word it's creating uncertainty.
Definitely.
So hypotheticals lead to uncertainty, and again, we're seeing that in the stock market today. The Dow down just a few minutes ago 1,000 points again, and since President Trump has taken office, it's down more than 5,500 points overall in just a very short window of time. I don't even know if we've reached this president's first 100 days yet. So I think what it's creating is uncertainty, so people don't know what to do. So what are they doing? They're maybe canceling things. They're not lining up vacations. They're making a decision not to purchase a new home. They're making a decision not to buy a new car. They're deciding on what they can afford and can't afford based on what? On what? And uncertainty is one of the biggest problems when it comes to not only financial planning for families, but also for the stock market, for businesses, for the economy. At some point, and I'm glad Nintendo did come out and say what they've said over the last couple of days about the Switch, we can only stomach so much uncertainty. And I think what we're seeing now is that uncertainty is playing out with investors. They're pulling back. Companies are concerned about like how to plan and how to budget and how they're going to afford the tariffs, and are they going to have to pay millions of extra dollars once they get this stuff shipped over from China or other countries. President Trump has said he's working on deals with different countries. We'll have to see how that plays out over the next several weeks. But remember, this pause that he put on just a few days ago is just that. It is just a pause, and it was a 90-day pause only. So I think this is leading to a lot of uncertainty, and to me, the Nintendo Switch doesn't say a whole lot about any of this, but to you, it says a lot.
Yeah, because I think what it's saying is companies are realizing we're going to spend what we're planning on spending, right? Just because the average car right now costs $50,000. If these tariffs really do affect and they jump up to $58,000, that's what the tariffs say they would jump up to, or $60,000, whatever it might be. I just don't think we will see that. I don't think we're going to see that directly tied over. I think the Switch is a great indication of across the board what's going to happen. We will draw a line and we will say, I'm not going to spend that kind of money for a new car or a used car or a Switch 2. The tariff, this is good news for me in my brain. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic.
It's okay. Let's take live calls. 801-575-TALK. Are you on Team Dave? This is good news. This is good news. Even a little bit of good news. It is good news. 801-575-TALK. We're taking your live calls next.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency? Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son, and they're demanding $500,000.
On September 12th, 1995, 12-year-old McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas. It was a crime that shocked the community because the suspect was so unlikely, so unexpected.
Former high-ranking police official. He'd run for sheriff at one point.
Law enforcement personnel were pretty much split down the middle over whether or not he actually did this.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, still feels that justice was never truly served.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Water belongs in pipes, not in your yard or on your floor. Call Utah Utility Pro. Water, sewer, main, and gas lines. UtahUtilityPro.com.
Dave, and Dujanovic.
Nintendo announcing that its Switch 2 is not going to increase in price, despite the cloud of President Trump's tariffs hanging over America products that are brought to America. The Switch 2 is going to stay at $449. If you want it with the Mario Kart game, the Mario Kart World Bundle would be about $500. And Dave thinks this is a good sign.
I think it it is potentially a very good sign. Because when we're looking at tariffs and you say, oh, it's 25% here, it's 50% there, it's 143% over in China, we start doing the math. We're like, oh, well, it's more than doubling the cost of this or that. But I think what Nintendo has done here with the Switch 2, and by not raising the prices at all, what they've done is they've said, I'm going to have to take the loss. I can't just pass it on to the customer, because this is what we've said is, oh, these tariffs are just going to be passed on to the consumer. Well, what Nintendo is showing us right now is no, they are not passing it on to the consumer, not one penny for the Switch 2.
Now, if I just did a one-for-one math, I don't know where all the components are coming from and how they assess what tariff to what component with the Nintendo Switch 2. But out of Japan, products imported to the United States, my understanding was the Japanese tariff that he had assessed was going to be 24%. So it would be $100 more. Let's say if it's just a one-for-one, it'd be $100 more. Sorry, that's just not a deal breaker for families that are going all in on the Nintendo setup here, because you will see price increases. So it's not totally that you're not going to see any price increases, but it's going to be $5 here and there for different accessories that go with the Nintendo Switch 2. So I just don't think, even if they would have assessed the $100, I just don't think that was going to be a big deal to pass on to customers, Dave. I'm just not seeing it through these rose-colored glasses that you are seeing this through, because really, at the end of the day, this is totally optional for kids and families to get another gaming device that's going to keep kids glued to a monitor inside their home during the summer months. I think where you're going to see the potential for tariffs to really set back families financially is in the new car market, maybe even in the used car market, maybe in the car repair market, as they're trying to get, different parts in from other countries to fix cars. I think you're potentially also going to see it at the supermarket, right, where it's just nickel and dimed to your grocery bill costing you more and more. I just don't see how every single company is going to absorb the additional costs that they're paying when their products are brought into the U.S. at the dock. I just don't see that that Nintendo is a sign of things to come. I don't see it the same way you do.
Taking your phone calls, 801-575-TALK. Let's jump out to Jerry and Sandy. What do you think? Is this the good news that I'm hoping for?
I think I have to be on Team Dave with this one. The thing about it is it's like, before President Trump instituted these tariffs, he made it perfectly clear. Other countries have been beating us to death for years. And, you go all the way back to George H.W. Bush. He was even looking at him, but Trump's been the first president that's actually had the wherewithal to go through with them. And the thing about it is China is going to be in a world of hurt, because they cannot feed their population without the United States agriculture. So they're going to have to play ball at some point. It's just a matter of how long they think they can hold out before they have to give in and say, okay, what do we need to do to get some food in this country?
Jerry, thank you for the phone call. I look at it, and again, if we're looking just at the straight math, I see how we get there. I see how you look at something, what it costs. You're like, well, there's a 25% tariff. They're just going to pass that on to the consumer. And next thing you know, your $50,000 new car, which is the average cost, if you added a 25% tariff, jumps up to $62,500. I get how we get there. I get the math. But the assumption is that the tariffs aren't going to change our spending habits. And what I see Nintendo doing is saying this would change spending habits, maybe not for everybody, but enough people that we're not going to raise the price, not one penny. And that right there tells me that they looked at that $450 mark and said, we're just going to roll with it. That's what it's going to cost, and we're going to eat the losses. And we can't speak out of both sides of our mouths saying these huge companies that are making billions and billions of dollars of profit every single year, they're not going to absorb any of these costs. Well, Nintendo did that exact thing. They said, we're going to absorb not just some of the cost, all of the costs for the Switch 2.
Well, I'm not sure small businesses would be able to absorb all of the costs of a 24 or 50% or 124 or 143%, whatever the number is, tariff on their products being imported. So while Nintendo may very well be able to afford to absorb the cost of tariffs, I would suspect that smaller businesses won't have the good fortune of being able to absorb the cost of tariffs. Or, not mark up their price to the point where it covers the cost of tariffs and then nobody who's buying their product. We'll have to see how it shakes out. I mean, he said he's negotiating, and perhaps this is part of the quote-unquote art of the deal where tariffs start high and then negotiate down. He's gave himself 90 days to do so. So we'll have to see if he reaches a deal, not only with Japan, which he was negotiating with, looked like last week, but China and other countries that he's assessed tariffs on. Straight ahead, just hours after his public appearance to celebrate Easter services at St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis passed away. I was shocked to learn that this morning, probably because he was out and about in the Pope Mobile yesterday. And this morning, Catholics around the globe are mourning the death of Pope Francis, who died at the age of 88. We'll go in depth in the 11 o'clock hour.
Jeff Kaplan.
When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my Minute of News, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
How much time do you spend thinking about your garage door? Well, probably not a lot. Unless there's a problem, then that's all you're thinking about today.
And that's why you want to give Advanced Garage Doors a call if you get into a jam or your garage door gets into a jam, because they've got the certified technicians who are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with same-day service. So they're there when you need them.
Yeah, they can come out to your house and give you a free consultation. They have a 23-point safety inspection just to make sure that your garage door is functioning properly.
And make sure you give them a call and ask them all about the KSL listener special, too. You want to go over those options with them as well, because they've got some really good deals now for our KSL listeners.
Yeah, if you buy a garage door, you're going to get a free garage door opener, a free garage door inspection. And there's no obligation when they come out and give you that inspection. That is free. And then if you do need a repair, perhaps your rollers need to be replaced or the chain has an issue with it, perhaps the spring needs a replacement, $10 or $100 off any parts needed for that repair.
And you can design your brand new garage door right on their website. They have that option as well, and the lifetime warranty that includes labor as well. So make sure you ask them about that. It includes labor, and they get the lifetime warranty as long as you follow the recommendations.
Go to that website, advanced-door.com, advanced-door.com.
Or you can call them at 801-989-3667. Again, 801-989-DOOR.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-371-0505. 800-371-0505.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And let's face it, it's time to update the look of your home's exterior. When was that thing built? In the 50s, 70s, 90s, the 2000s? Well, it's looking like it. Faded siding, drafty windows, leaky gutters. It's time to take action now. RGS Exteriors has been taking Utah homes from drab to fab for over 5 generations. We only use the highest quality materials like James Hardie siding and gutter topper gutter covers. You will be blown away by how much different and better and awesome your house can look. Your neighbors will be jealous, your home value will go up, and most of all, you're going to love it. Everything we do comes with our industry-leading 10-year everything guarantee, so you can sleep like a baby, knowing if anything goes wrong, you're 100% covered. For a free estimate on your gutters, windows, siding, or anything on your outside of your home, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Heather Peterson. KSL's top story this hour, members of the Catholic faith in Utah gathered for a special mass at the Cathedral of the Madeleine this morning to pray for Pope Francis following the news of his passing. Director of Worship for the Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake City, Lorena Needham, spoke with KSL on her way to this morning's service.
I'm sure and comforted by the fact that he's a man of prayer and been immersed in prayer his whole life and caring for all of us. And now that he's united with our Eternal Father, this gives me great comfort.
Needham says Pope Francis shared many messages during his life that people needed to hear, and she felt it was important to be at today's service to unite her prayers with others. Pope Francis died early this morning at the age of 88. The pastor and rector of the Cathedral of the Madeleine says they will play their bells at noon today when Pope Francis's body is placed in the coffin. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Once again, the markets are taking a nosedive over Trump's tariff policies. ABC's Sherry Preston takes a look.
About an hour after trading began on Monday, the Dow sank more than 1,000 points, and the value of the dollar continued losing ground. Traders are increasingly concerned about U.S. markets and of a looming recession if tariffs imposed by President Trump aren't pulled back. Tech stocks, including Tesla, continue losing ground ahead of earnings reports that are due out this week.
And your money at this moment, the Dow is down 1,067 points, the S&P down 150, and the NASDAQ down 510. Coming up, getting warmer and warmer throughout the week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
History had the gold rush. Then came the oil boom, then the tech boom. But right now it's the Wi-Fi boom, and the Xfinity Wi-Fi is booming. Streaming, booming. Gaming, booming. Video calls, booming. Even when your boss schedules a meeting, it definitely should have been an email. And now you can get Xfinity Internet and mobile together in one all-in plan. It's the ultimate power couple. Wi-Fi Power Boost from Xfinity Mobile gives you faster, secure Wi-Fi speeds at home and on the go, so your Wi-Fi is booming wherever you are. Now through June 23rd, new customers can get 400 megabit Xfinity Internet with free equipment and unlimited internet data and get one unlimited 5G mobile line included, all in one plan, all for $40 a month for 1 year. So whether you're working, watching, or panning for Wi-Fi gold, one thing's for sure, Xfinity Wi-Fi is booming. Visit Xfinity.com to learn more. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account restrictions apply. Taxes, fees, extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. Reduced speeds after 30 gigabits of data usage. Data thresholds vary. After 1 year, rate increases to $110 a month. After 2 years, regular rates apply to all services up to $143 a month. Actual speeds vary.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Heather Kelly.
We are accident-free right now on the city streets and major freeways all across the Wasatch Front. No problems if you're hopping on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, or I-80 through Parley's Canyon. So it's a good time to be out and about on the roadways. It's time to try UTA. Less stress, no traffic, and more U time. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Clouds, but warm weather throughout the week. Today we're expecting a high of 64. Those temperatures gradually climb until we get into the 70s by Thursday. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 48 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, where Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
I was not expecting to wake up this morning, Dave, and when I checked my Deseret News app to see kind of what the news of the day was, to see the headline that Pope Francis had passed away. The reason being is because just saw him yesterday, not conducting, overseeing Easter Mass at St. Peter's, but on St. Peter's Square, right after Easter Mass, in his open-air Pope Mobile, driving around in that and kind of trying to wave at the crowd there. But he passed away after what was a considerable battle with what's called bilateral pneumonia, a long hospital stay, and then overnight we got word that he had died.
It was a surprise. We knew when he'd been in the hospital. I think he'd lost a part of his lung in his youth because he had some problems with that. So he was even working on some reduced capacity in his lungs. So when pneumonia, when that diagnosis came out, this was obviously very, very serious. But when he left the hospital, doctors told him 2 months, like totally, off the grid, to take care of yourself, let your body heal. So that was in part what was so shocking to see him on Easter come out, and I thought, he must be doing better than we expected. So to hear, just a short time after that he passed away, that was such a surprise.
The brief video clips that I saw of him, he looked rather frail, trying to, wave to the crowd. And when we met this morning for our show meeting, and you knowing that I'm Catholic, the first thing you said, I'm sorry to hear about the Pope, and I appreciated that. I had an actual flashback to just a few years ago when President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints paid a visit to the Pope, to Pope Francis with him, spent time with him, and this was back in March of 2019.
Cordial, unforgettable experience with His Holiness. He was most gracious and warm and welcoming. We talked about our mutual concern for the people who suffer throughout the world. We want to relieve human suffering. We talked about the importance of religious liberty, the importance of the family, our mutual concern for the youth of the church, for the secularization of the world, and the need for people to come to God and worship Him, pray to Him, and have the stability that faith in Jesus Christ will bring to their lives. What a sweet, wonderful man he is, and how fortunate the Catholic people are to have such a gracious, concerned, loving, and capable leader. He's a dear, wonderful, humble, competent, gracious man.
Part of what I love about Pope Francis is that he was willing to meet with leaders of other faith, that he welcomed them in and had interesting discussions and conversations, even though there may be some differences in doctrine or belief. Nevertheless, these are men of faith that would come together, and it seemed like Pope Francis had wide arms that he would welcome people in.
Boyd Matheson, former KSL News Radio host. I know you're currently working as a strategic advisor for Senator John Curtis, but we couldn't help but reach out to you today in the capacity that you were in 2019 and ask you what that was like, because you were in Rome for that meeting back then. So walk us back through memory lane with the meeting between President Russell M. Nelson and Pope Francis, Boyd.
Yeah, in fact, just listening to that sound clip, you could hear a lot of rustling in the background. We were actually there in St. Peter's Square, and President Nelson and M. Russell Ballard of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles had just come out of that meeting with Pope Francis. And so there we were on St. Peter's Square having that interview, and it was most interesting. You know, it was an audience that almost didn't happen. There were a lot of challenges to that in terms of scheduling. It ended up being a Saturday, and Pope Francis rarely took an audience on a Saturday. And as you know, most people who have a chance to interact with the Pope, it's usually just a few very, very short minutes. That conversation ended up going for over a half an hour, almost 40 minutes, as those two got together. And it was interesting as they came out, M. Russell Ballard, again, of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, talked about President Nelson and Pope Francis meeting. And he said they were friends from the very first word. The meeting began with friendship and ended with something unique for Pope Francis, a brotherly embrace. And as you heard President Nelson talk about the common ground, and so interesting, I also had the opportunity to interview Sergio Rubin, who is a dear friend of Pope Francis and his biographer. And he drew really interesting comparisons and parallels between President Nelson and Pope Francis and their unique ability to connect to the one. He said, this is not about a pope and this is not about a president of a church. This is about one-on-one. And they both had a unique ability. In fact, I was thinking back through that trip there to Rome, and I had often talked about President Nelson and his side-by-side leadership. And Pope Francis very much had that same kind of thing. In his very first words to the world after becoming Pope Francis, he said, we must not be afraid of goodness or even of tenderness. And I always thought that Pope Francis and President Nelson could have tag team a side-by-side leadership course. It would have been a masterclass in terms of doing that. President Nelson said on that same occasion, talking about the humanitarian projects that the two churches work on together. And he said, we walk arm in arm with our Catholic friends. And so many unique moments there, I think, between those two. First meetings are always so interesting. To be there in Rome and to see those two was really fascinating. And I have a deep affection for Pope Francis. Over the last 7 years, I don't know that there's been a day that I have not read something from or something about Pope Francis. I have holy envy for a lot of what he did and how he did it, his approach to leadership, his approach to young people. That was another interesting thing that he and President Nelson shared, is here you have these two very elderly gentlemen who had this unique connection to young people. In fact, as they were finishing their meeting there in the Vatican, President Nelson told Pope Francis that he was going to meet that evening with a large group of youth from Rome. And Pope Francis said, you make sure you tell those kids to honor their parents. So even as they got up in age, their ability to connect each of them in unique ways to young people was really extraordinary.
That voice you hear and have known so well is one of our former colleagues and friends, Boyd Matheson. Boyd, one of the things that stands out to me as you're talking about the parallels of Pope Francis and President Nelson is they weren't afraid, even early on, to shake things up a little bit, to look at the way things had been done in the church and say, you know what, there might be a different way forward, and they weren't afraid to change things and lead in perhaps a different way and maybe address some of the long-term ways things have been done in the church. And it feels like they've both taken a leadership path in that way as well.
Yeah, there's a popular phrase these days, get used to different. And both Pope Francis and President Nelson have modeled that in many ways. Just get used to different, because I think they both saw and they both felt that we sometimes get over-focused on process and structure. And Pope Francis was what I call one of those any points of the compass leaders. Yes, he led from the front of the church and from the balcony in St. Peter's Square, but he was at his very best when he was washing the feet of those that were in prison. I think one of my favorite memories of Pope Francis was when he went to the outskirts of the city and was meeting with a group of little children. And one of those little boys, he opened it up and said, "You can ask me anything you want." And there was one little boy, and he was so hesitant. You could tell he wanted to ask a question, but he couldn't. And finally, he just burst into tears. And Pope Francis immediately called him up and said, "What is your question?" And this little boy asked Pope Francis. His name was Emmanuel. He was so filled with worry. He was worried about his dad, who had died as a non-believer. And he asked Pope Francis if his dad would be in heaven. And Pope Francis, again, not afraid of goodness, not afraid of tenderness, took that little boy in his arms and asked him a question. He said, "What kind of heart does God have?" And then he answered it, and he said, "A father's heart. God has a dad's heart." And that was really, to me, the epitome of Pope Francis, were those tender moments that really did shake things up, that it wasn't about, doctrinal discipline or differences between other faith groups or political groups. It was those moments where humanity and even divinity came through because he was not afraid of goodness and he was not afraid of tenderness.
When I learned of his death this morning, Boyd, I was reminded of, and we all, I'll speak for myself, not everybody, but sometimes a reminder of how we treat others and accept others and extend help and hope to others comes through a major life event like, this today for so many Catholics around the globe, the passing of Pope Francis. But I went back through some of his quotes, remembering how generous and loving he was toward those in poverty and those who are just having a really difficult time in life, not only through poverty but also marginalized in the environment that they're living in in just the community that they're in. And I pulled this quote from 2015. He said, "The coexistence of wealth and poverty is a scandal. It is a disgrace it is a disgrace for humanity." And when I read that aloud, and when I read that, the think bubble over my head, it's that quote over my head, I'm thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing to reach out to those who are struggling in this time? And what will I do, for the rest of my life to help others? And that quote says just so much to me about how we're living today when, with in an environment with the haves and the have-nots. And the Pope addressed that, calling it an actual disgrace for humanity.
Yeah, and so often he did that, and he did it in so many different ways. He did it, of course, in big speeches and big events and big publications, but I think his real influence were all the people that he just talked to, whether it was on the street, whether it was the press. He was the most accessible pope there's ever been in terms of being willing to answer hard questions and to have difficult conversations. And then he had all of these private meetings where I think his real influence took place. I remember standing there in St. Peter's Square as President Nelson and the Pope were meeting inside the Vatican, and I was reminded of a quote that listening to the small talk of great men and women would do wonders for the world. And as I think particularly of Pope Francis today and that interaction with President Nelson, I think it was kind of a road to Emmaus moment coming off of Easter weekend. Here you had these two great world religious leaders having a private conversation. And I'm sure that while they did talk about poverty and they did talk about the family and religious liberty and a host of other things, they really got back to what you're alluding to, Debbie, and that is, what are we going to do about it? And how do we actually move forward? And I think both Pope Francis and President Nelson renewed a commitment. There'd always been a good working relationship over the last few decades with Catholic Relief Services and Latter-day Saint Charities. But I think they doubled down on that this is a arm-in-arm, shoulder-to-shoulder thing. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to be at an event with Khosrow Simnani, the One Kind Act group that was up at the University of Utah, and we had Sean Callahan, who's the head globally of Catholic Relief Services, and Sharon Eubank, who, of course, heads Latter-day Saint Charities. And there they were up on stage just having this casual conversation about doing good, about being better, about you may not be able to solve all the world's problems today, but you surely can help a neighbor in need. You surely can make a difference for that person that you interact with at work or at school or as you go about your community. And to me, that's the ultimate test that I think Pope Francis laid down from day one and carried out throughout his entire time as Pope. And that is, he was never afraid of goodness, and he was never afraid of tenderness. And I think he was inviting everyone, all of us, regardless of our faith tradition, to link arms and to walk together kind of on that road to Emmaus moment and to do good and to not be afraid of that tenderness towards each other, because that is what ultimately will change the world.
And Boyd, as kind-hearted and as tender as Pope Francis appeared, he would speak boldly to social issues, even global issues about climate change. He's criticized immigration policies, spoke against poverty and war. So as kind-hearted as he was, he would take bold stands and unpopular stands at times.
Yeah, and I think that is the power of it. We so often equate being kind and good and tender to being soft and weak and wimpy, and that's just not the case. I think it was because he was so tender that it allowed him to speak truth and to say, you know what, we do have some things we need to deal with to be better stewards of the environment. So we can look at climate, and we can look at stewardship of the land, and we can look at providing for those in need. And those are all congruent. Those are compatible principles. And sadly, far too often in our politically polarized world, we look at those things as being weak or unable to take a stand. I think one of the great qualities of Pope Francis was his willingness to speak the truth. And why did he speak the truth? Because he loved people. And he knew that if he didn't speak the truth, then he can't help them. We don't help people by sugarcoating it. We don't help people by avoiding the conversation. And I think that may be part of the secret sauce of Pope Francis. Clearly, his namesake in really always preach the gospel when necessary, use words, of course, St. Francis of Assisi. But what he was really saying is, I love you and I love this world so much, I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm going to tell you the truth when it comes to immigration or climate or how we should deal with energy policy or what we can do to create a level playing field so everyone has an opportunity to rise.
Boyd, thank you so much for sharing those memories. We appreciate it. You know Boyd Matheson as one of our former friends, well, current friends, still friends, but a former KSL News Radio host. I almost ended our friendship right there, Boyd.
Yeah, thanks, Boyd. Always great to talk to you, and thank you for bringing a perspective to this really tender moment for the world and for the 1+ billion Catholics around the globe, and including here in Utah, where we have about 300,000 Catholics. I include myself in that. We spoke earlier today to Jim Ryan of ABC News, because part of the fascination about the next phase of this is then how does the Catholic Church then go on to choose a new pope?
There's sort of a loose schedule that follows the death of any pope for day 2 to day 6. The pope's body lies in state at St. Peter's Basilica. Thousands of people are expected to pass by. The funeral mass is held 4 to 6 days after the death of the Pope, then 7 to 15 days preparations for the conclave, and then finally after 2 weeks or so, the conclave will begin. The cardinals coming to the Vatican from all over the world, 70-plus countries. They will meet in private. It's all done in secrecy. And votes are taken. It becomes a political game at that point, essentially. And then finally one of those cardinals will emerge as the next pope. We'll see the white smoke coming from the chimney there at the Vatican.
And Pope Francis was 88 years old. He met with President Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when he was 82, and President Nelson was 94 years old. They had a wonderful meeting, it sounds like. They gave each other a hug. They embraced after their meeting, so it was quite impactful. And, yeah, Pope Francis... it leaves quite a legacy.
So the cardinals will begin to gather over the next couple of weeks. The vote for the new pope will take place in the Sixtine Chapel. They must be under 80 years old. They have to be under 80 years old. I think that was a rule that was, the 100. They do that has to be under 80 years old. I don't know why. I just wondered if it's, well, anyway. They have to, I'm not going to speculate on why. They'll have a maximum participants of at least 120 who will participate. They'll come from around the globe, as you heard Jim Ryan of ABC News report. And then they will vote. I think they can do up to 4 votes a day on who they want to become the next pope. And then they burn the ballots. So if they don't come to some sort of consensus, they burn the ballots. So it's secretive. I mean, this is just fascinating how this happens. And then if you see black smoke, it means they have not elected a pope. And then I remember many years ago, I don't remember under, which moment this was, but many years ago, it was gather around the television waiting for the white smoke. And then when the white smoke goes up, they have selected a new pope. So this will unfold over about the next 15 to 20 or 30 days or so. So, of course, we'll have full coverage right here, continuing coverage on KSL News Radio.
911, what's your emergency? They kidnapped my son.
What would you do if your child disappeared and someone you trusted was responsible?
We thought he cared for McKay, when in fact he didn't care for anyone.
Listen to Ransom now at ransompodcast.com.
You know Mountain Home Services because they've been around for quite a while now, and they have so much expertise that we can tap into.
Yeah, it's all those electrical needs that you need to have taken care of, and you get that honey-do list taken care of before summer hits. They're your go-to. Maybe you need your HVAC looked at. They're your go-to. Maybe there's a plumbing problem in the house. Once again, Mountain Home Services is your go-to.
I'm thinking about air conditioning right now as it's starting to warm up a little bit. When it gets hot, and it can get hot in a hurry here in Utah, you want to make sure that thing is humming along beautifully. So have them come out, take care of that. Obviously, whether the job is very large or very small, they can take care of you.
And with Mountain Home Services, you get that upfront pricing guarantee, which means the price that they quote you up front is the price you pay when the job is done, which is great news because there are no hidden fees.
100% satisfaction guarantee. Go ahead and give them a call and ask about the special offer for KSL listeners. Check them out online at mountainhomeservices.com. That's mountainhomeservices.com.
And here's the phone number, 801-543-2222. Again, 801-543-2222.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owed that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owed, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and the IRS offered me to pay $4,000.
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
EndTaxWorry.com.
The KSL News Radio Movie Show comes to My Hearing Centers Friday from 10 to 1. But first, discover what My Hearing Centers can do for you. My Hearing Centers uses advanced technology to diagnose and treat hearing loss. These comprehensive evaluations determine the best treatment options. Then enjoy lifetime support with regular check-ins, cleaning, and maintenance. Call My Hearing Centers at 801-701-1629. 801-701-1629 for more details. My Hearing Centers has offices from Ogden to St. George.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com. And get ready for the workday.
Listen up, Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. So let's do it again and get vaccinated. We're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults under 50. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com to schedule. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. President Trump spoke briefly about the death of Pope Francis today. Details from ABC News senior correspondent Rachel Scott at the White House.
He called Pope Francis a good man, saying that he worked hard. The president mentioning that he signed this executive order for the flags to be lowered to half staff, not only here at the White House, which has already happened, but also across the country. Earlier, the president posting on social media saying, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all those who loved him."
The president speaking at the White House Easter egg roll today, accompanied by his First Lady. Father Martin Diaz is the pastor and rector of the Cathedral of Madeleine in Salt Lake City, and he says the Pope has had a profound impact on many around the world.
Pope Francis put a mirror in front of all of us Catholics. Okay, what are you doing? Are you serving the poor? How are you serving the poor? But it's not just the physically poor. It's not just the homeless and the hungry and needing clothes. It's those who are poor because their hearts are broken.
Father Diaz says they will ring the bells of the cathedral at noon, the same time Pope Francis is placed in his coffin in Rome. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 1,138 points. The S&P is down 163. And coming up, a high of 64 today. KSL Weather's next KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty, and right now as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
We had an accident on I-15 in the Riverdale area over to the left. Looks like it has just cleared, and traffic along I-15 looking good once again, both directions. But the earlier delays on the northbound side are still clearing out. If you see traffic happening, you can always text us on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Murdoch Chevrolet, home of 2.9% for 6 years on the Silverado 1500. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see a high of 64 today with mostly sunny skies, partly cloudy tomorrow with a high of 68, and more clouds move in on Wednesday. Right now it is 48 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's a story I could not wait to talk about. The top 10 Utah cities for traffic ticket revenue.
I could not love this story anymore because I have my own personal list in my head. Like, I know this city's on. I know this one is. In fact, if I go through any small town and I get pulled over, there's 0% chance I'm expecting a warning. Like, I'm going to get hit on every single level. So is that just perception? Is that reality? So the top 10 cities in Utah, the chances of whether or not you're going to get a ticket.
Yeah, so these are the cities that have the highest percentage of traffic ticket revenue. And Britt Johnson in now from the newsroom to walk us through this. There was some formula that the state auditor's office used to come up with this list. It's not like all-time revenue, but what is it based on a percentage of the city's budget?
Yes, it's a percentage. So Salt Lake City probably hands out a lot more tickets than most of these cities. Most of these cities on this list are small towns. But based on what their revenue is, how much are they getting of their revenue from these traffic tickets? And excuse me, like Sunset City is getting 14.9% of their revenue from traffic tickets. However, a couple of years back, the legislature passed a law that said the cap is 25%. So even if you feel like a city is going overboard and really nabbing people with those traffic tickets, none of our cities are at that threshold or close to it.
Okay, so they're all they're following the law is what you're saying.
Yes.
Or what we're reporting. Okay, Sunset is in Davis County. Dave, have you ever
I've been through Sunset, but I've never gotten a ticket there, so we'll call that a victory.
Is it a big city?
No.
It's
kind of Roy
city.
area.
Okay, Britt's got the rest of the list. Go over it.
Okay,
at least
so
a few of them.
Second place, Manaway City.
Oh, Manaway.
I've gotten a ticket there. My husband's gotten a ticket there. No surprise, I feel like, from most people, especially those students going up to Utah State. That was lore. Like everyone just knew. It was talked about.
That's a rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get a ticket in Manaway.
So Manaway, and I've been there. I've been through there. Isn't that on the way to like Pineview Reservoir? Am I in the right area?
It's up to Sardine Canyon, heading up to Cache Valley.
Okay.
And then same thing on your way coming out of the canyon, out of Sardine Canyon, Wellsville City is in the same area. Okay. So they're nabbing all those students.
How much money are they bringing in let's just say Sardine Canyon?
Okay.
How much money are they bringing in every year?
Let's see. From 2024, Manaway got $206,000, and Wellsville got $335,000.
So over $500,000
in 2024
in traffic tickets
between those two cities.
Yes,
between those two cities. Okay. What's the next one on the list?
Orderville Town, which I hadn't heard of before. I
don't know Orderville.
I think it's in Kane County.
I
think we
by Carmel Mountain area, southern Utah.
Total Debbie Downer moment. I had a rough road trip on my return back from Arizona. Blew a tire. Anyway, that delayed our trip, and then got the tire fixed in Flagstaff, and then drove on through, and then missed a turn on the way to Cedar City. So I think I ended up in Orderville. I wonder if this is the town, and maybe people can help me out with this at 57500 on our text line. Is this the town where my daughter and I drove in and we saw looked like an older cop car parked there and wasn't sure there was a real cop inside there? So it's kind of like sitting there designed to organically slow traffic because you see a marked cop car there. So text me at 57500. I'll make sure I got my small town correct. But we did not get a traffic ticket in that town. I told my daughter, she was behind the wheel at the time, and I said, is super duper careful. Like, we want to be a little bit under the speed limit.
Yes.
So how much revenue did they generate?
So it's a big drop. They got $48,000 in 2024. However, it's all based on how much revenue that town is making. So Orderville, like I said, I'm very unfamiliar with Orderville. They're not big. They're not bringing in a lot of revenue. So
yeah, their total general fund revenue is under 500,000.
Mhm.
I can tell you why I think they only collected 48,000. I think we were like one of two cars on the road in Orderville. I mean, honestly, everybody was turning left, and my daughter's like, "Why everybody's turning left?" Well, I don't know. We just kept going, and that's probably why, because everybody was going to Cedar City on the route that everybody goes to Cedar City. We took the long way around.
And I was talking to the state auditor's office about this when I did the story, and he's like, I want to reiterate that this does not mean they hand out the most tickets. It's just percentage. So I think sometimes in our minds and anecdotally, we think these are speed traps. But like I said, Salt Lake City probably hands out quadruple what Orderville does. They
Right.
just percentage-wise, they didn't make the list.
And we're not actually challenging whether or not people were speeding or not. We're just saying this is ultimately what the fine was being paid. So maybe it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cities. Was there most of these are very small cities, or was there a large city that stood out to you?
Holiday was number 10. And that was a little bit surprising because it's bigger than all the rest on the list, basically.
Yes.
But it's only 3.2% of as a revenue generator, right, of their revenue. So they have $23 million in the general fund, but it's in revenue, but it's 2.1 million in fines.
Yeah, so that's a big drop from number 1 at almost 15% to number 10 on the list, 3.2%. So Holiday, maybe you're okay speeding there a little bit. I don't know.
But still,
don't take my advice on that.
$2 million, though, is not insignificant. That means folks have spent in just 1 year more than $2 million in Holiday. As I'm looking through this,
I was just there the other night. Sorry, Dave. I was just there the other day, actually, and I'm trying to think where they must be giving those tickets in Holiday. And I used to live in Conwood Heights forever, and my ex-husband was formerly chief of police of the city of Holiday. I mean, he retired in 2015, but I was like, where are they issuing those tickets? And in our next segment, we're going to take live calls, so maybe somebody will call in from Holiday and give us a heads up of where they got ticketed when they were driving through that town.
Part of what stands out to me is when I'm looking at these top 10 cities that are handing out traffic tickets, we're talking about millions of dollars collected, more than $4 million collected. And they're using this to fund their city in many ways. Now, it may just be a portion of it. So perhaps it's all under 15% as far as funding the city, but that's still, we're talking millions of dollars in fines.
Yes, I went to a fireworks show in one of these cities, and these residents were joking around being like, there's the traffic ticket money. I mean, it's just...
You mean going up in a firework?
Yeah, up in smoke.
Britt, great story, great report. You can read more about Britt's story at kslnewsradio.com. We're going to flip the microphone over to our own producer, Noah Giles, who can relate to the Manaway situation that you and your husband at one point found yourselves in with the traffic ticket. So Noah, walk us through your experience when you attended Utah State University with Manaway.
Yeah, so
number 2 on the list, by the way.
Number 2 with 13% of its overall revenue coming from these traffic tickets. That was always like the rumor we'd heard about the Manaway monster, they called him, the RoboCop. Someone was always there, and like you would drive through, and I feel like every time I drove through, you'd see someone getting pulled over, you'd see a cop car on the side of the road, and I think it's 65 is the speed limit, and so you drop down to 60 and go nice and slow. But there was one time, I think it was my freshman year, my sophomore year in college up at Utah State, and I had a professor who emailed the class, say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit late today, and this is one of those giant lecture rooms where there's 150 students, and he gets in there, and you could tell he's really upset about something, and he starts off and he says, I have a question for everybody. have you ever been pulled over in Manaway? And probably 60% of the class raised their hands. Yep, that's me. I myself have never been pulled over in Manaway, but like I said, almost every time I drove through, I feel like you always saw someone getting pulled over.
But you were careful when you drove through to make sure you didn't clock at 70 miles an hour on the radar?
Once I'd heard the rumors of what was going on in Manaway, yes. But the first couple times I just blew through it. I'm like, oh, this is just a canyon. It's the off-road. There's the tiny little town. Just go right through it. And then I started hearing the rumors, and I was like, okay,
we gotta lock it up.
I gotta slow down just a little bit, because it's the same way you go out to Bear Lake, right? So you go through there to get to Logan, to get to Bear Lake. So you drive through it all the time, and if you don't know, they're gonna get you super easily.
Well, and the way it's designed, it has kind of a dip, so you're coming down, and so it's very easy to creep up and not realize how fast you're going. And sure enough, this surprises nobody that's ever been to Manaway. You'd never even know about Manaway, that they're number 2 on the list. The only thing that shocks me is that they weren't number 1 on the list. That goes to Sunset City. So congratulations, Sunset. Percentage-wise, you fund most of your government, or than any other city, is through traffic tickets. Congrats.
Yeah. Straight ahead, we're going to take live calls. Tell us about the time you got pulled over. What road were you on? Were you in a small town? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Look forward to hearing from you. And then I put out the question, where was that sleeping police officer in the patrol car? I mean, not a real police officer. When my daughter and I were driving through Kane County just a few weeks ago, and a number of you texted in, because I asked for text 57500. I don't remember where that, is it a dummy police officer, we call a faux police officer, was sitting to slow down traffic. And I actually, at the first check, Dave, of all of the text messages that came in, dropped in here, it's like people are giving me all kinds of different towns where I saw that. So apparently there's more than one sleeping police officer in Utah. I'm going to give you the list straight ahead, but in the meantime, your live calls in 1.5 minutes on where's that town that you got pulled over for speeding? 801-575-TALK.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. TSA Architects is a team of healthcare design experts committed to creating spaces that enhance healing and efficiency. Specializing in healthcare and veteran-focused projects, they guide clients through every phase, from planning to execution. Founder and President Tracy Stocking joins us with more.
At TSA Architects, we design patient and staff-centered spaces that support the missions of healthcare providers across Utah and beyond. Our innovative, functional, and compassionate designs have earned the trust of top healthcare organizations with hundreds of projects spanning diverse clinical specialties. We're proud to have worked with Intermountain Health on the new McCady Hospital Cancer Center, with the University of Utah on a master plan for their new West Valley Hospital, and with Common Spirit Health on several women's center transformations. We're also designing a new emergency department for the VA Medical Center here in Salt Lake. Additionally, we partner with nonprofit providers like Utah Partners for Health and 4th Street Clinic, showcasing our dedication to accessible, high-quality health care for all. TSA Architects designs buildings and spaces to serve communities better. Discover how we can support your mission-driven healthcare organization and make a difference in your community. Visit us at tsa-usa.com.
TSA Architects blends thoughtful design with practical execution, managing projects from concept to completion. Their work is reshaping healthcare spaces to better serve patients, providers, and communities. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or it's free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Traffic tickets, they generate revenue for cities and towns. Britt Johnson was just in studio with us. She's been reporting on traffic ticket revenue and the percentage that traffic tickets are in terms of the overall city or town's funds. And some of the numbers that we went through. Sunset City in Davis County has collected $500,000 as of, it looks like, 2024. in court fines for traffic tickets. And then there's the city of Manaway, $206,000 in court fines. Orderville, which is in Kane County. I thought this was the city that I'd driven through with my daughter just a few weeks ago. A little less than $50,000 in court fines. But what I wondered is if Orderville is that town where we saw the police car with looked like maybe a dummy sitting inside of it, help slow down traffic. 801-575-TALK. What's the town that you've gotten that traffic ticket in and you just cannot get over it?
And it's not just Utah. This is happening. Mine is outside of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Jackson Hole was that small little town. I got nabbed going 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour over, and I ended up having to pay that ticket. So it's not just Utah, but I absolutely knew about Manaway. I've known about Manaway for years. I've never been pulled over. I don't know anyone from my family that has, because it is like a bullhorn announcement every time we're approaching. And then I realize I'm doing the same thing with my kids. I'll be riding with them through Sardine Canyon. I'm like, this is the spot, guys. This right here. Everyone slow down. We are going to get pulled over for going too slow because we are absolutely not going to test them. They'll get us.
Well, in two cities, Manaway and Wellsville, which is right in that Sardine Canyon area, have collected over almost $550,000 in court fines in 2024. So maybe you don't know if it's Manaway, you don't know if it's Wellsville. All you know is you got a ticket. 801-575-TALK. What's that one town you got a ticket in and you just haven't been able to get over?
How about this? Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they are absolutely onto something, because despite the fact they're handing out $200,000 in fines every single year in Manaway, everybody's talking about it. Everybody knows about it. And what could potentially just be a death trap, quite honestly, with speeding, it has created this reputation where everyone slows down. And ultimately, isn't that what we're looking for? We're looking for people to obey the speed limit, and we're breaking it. And if you break it, it's kind of hard to complain about getting a ticket, right?
At 57500, this listener says an 01 got a speeding ticket in West Valley City. Following the flow of traffic, an officer just standing on the side of the road, waving people over and handing out tickets. That's the worst. That is the worst. It's just like one right after the other. Mine was at Orem. It was years ago. I don't remember the year. I do remember I was left in tears. I had a van full of children with me. We were heading up to Sundance to go see an outdoor play, and I was the mom in charge, and we were late. Do I need to say anything more? Because not only when you get to Sundance do you get there, you got to walk a ton of little kids through the parking lot, but then you got to get on the chairlift to get up to the venue. So we were late. And there I was with a choice, and I made the wrong one. And the officer nabbed me in a construction zone. Did I say school? I meant a construction zone. So it was a construction zone, and so I went to traffic school for that. I went through a full day of traffic school for that, and I was just so disappointed in myself. But I cried after that. I cried. So I was asking that question, like, what town was I in when I saw that cop car? I don't think it had a cop in it, but I think it's just designed to make it look like, to make us slow down. So I think we were in Orderville, but I'm not 100% sure of that. So people were texting in, Dave. They said, nope, you were in Loa. I don't know if I was in Loa, but they said there's one there in Loa. Another person said Fish Haven, which I think is in Idaho.
Oh, I've gotten a ticket there. No, I mean, not Fish Haven, but close enough, Montpelier, Idaho. Yeah, sure enough. Again, this is not just a Utah thing. This is where it bothers me. When you're driving along these freeways, highways, whatever road it is, through small towns, they'll go from 65 miles an hour and then down to 45, down to 25. Yeah. And then it builds back up. It feels like a roller coaster of speed up, slow down, trying to get through. And if you're wondering, that's how they fund their government? Yeah, sure enough. The top 10 places in Utah, they're all small cities except Holiday. Holiday City is, number 10, but they only fund about 3% of their government from traffic tickets.
AJ, did you get a traffic ticket? Are you there? No, we don't have.
AJ's on mute because he's so frustrated.
No, I'm on the wrong. I'm on the wrong thing here. Hold on a
Fillmore
second.
is the worst
There we go.
for tickets. Again, small city. It's easy to go when you're heading south on I-15. Yeah, you get humming along. And if you get a speeding ticket on I-15 when the speed limit is 80 miles per hour, you've earned it, friends. You've earned it.
Hey, Randy. Hi. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you AJ.
Oh, no problem.
You
I
got a
just heard
traffic
Randy.
ticket?
Yeah, but they waived it because I was in a little tiny town called South Weaver, Utah, and I was going down Highway 89 downhill, and this cop was at the bottom of the hill, gave me a ticket, and I was only going 5 miles over. I was going 70 in a 65.
Oh boy!
Were
you got a warning?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just gave me a ticket, but I went to the South Weaver little tiny courthouse and disputed it, and the judge threw it out.
Oh, you fought it. You fought the
fought it,
law,
yeah.
and the law did not win. Congratulations, Randy.
It's just at times when I feel like the universe is working against me. This was back in the 89, 19. Like the things you never forget. It's like just stay with you. And I was driving home from my job. I worked until 11 o'clock at night at the CBS affiliate in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'd hopped in my car and I was driving home. Yeah, it was 1989. And I learned during that drive home that you can get a speeding ticket on the on-ramp to the freeway.
As you're trying to merge?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds fair.
The cop
They're like,
pulled-
get up to speed, merge in. You sped.
Yeah. The cop pulled me over, and he's like, "You were speeding on
Terrible.
the on ramp," and I'm like, "Are we for real
Brutal.
right now?"
That is awful, Deb.
And
You
I'm-
have every right to be incensed. That is awful.
Oh, that's the other time I cried after getting. You can see how I react to getting nabbed by law enforcement. I just bawled my eyes out. I must have paid the fine. I don't know. I felt so defeated, and so. If you see me getting onto a freeway, here I'm 58 years old. This is like decades ago. If you see me getting onto a freeway and I am the most annoying person, like doing 35, 40, I don't even know what is the speed limit to get onto the freeway.
You're supposed to just get up to speed.
I don't even. It just scarred me forever.
As it should. But it's good to know that your anecdotes, your thoughts of always getting tickets in small towns. Yeah, it's how they fund their government. At least a portion of it. No one's over 15% though, so it's not like they're funding 100% of the government. They're just about 15% on the most extreme cases.
Dave and Dujanovic.
If you're driving to work or you're driving the kids to a soccer game, we're your in-car companions.
People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I talk to you every day. You don't realize it because I'm talking at the radio, but I talk to you every day."
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Folks, if you have a family member that is struggling with addiction, you are not alone. So many of us